of you. So, humbly, give me a chance. I sound different. I say different things in maybe different ways. Give my team the opportunity to deliver what we can to you when we're talking about and feeling the national pulse every single day. And we'll be guided by your feedback, and I really appreciate your feedback. But the bottom line to all of this is this: there are certain strengths, inherent strengths that I have, and I want to use those strengths and impart those strengths when I host a show like this. And all I ask of you, be patient, hold my hand in whichever way you can, and I'd like to hold your hand, and we go along on this journey. Because the ultimate issue is not just talking on this platform, but talking for a greater purpose. And the greater purpose for me is, how do we ensure that the conversations we have, they move you. They move the whole of South Africa. They move us from where we are. They move us to another level, okay? So that's it for the very first time then on this show, the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. A lot to talk about. To call in, 086 000 2032. You got that. And the WhatsApp voice note number, 0614 104 107. And to tweet out on X at SFM Radio, to tag, use the hashtag the National Pulse, and you can also tag me, Ashraf Garda. I will definitely pick it up. I look forward to engaging you. I tell you what, there's a lot to talk about today, so much, okay? But one of the most important issues has been that call by the National Assembly Speaker to prevent being arrested, and that's what we're going to talk about next.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg. The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, when anybody is being charged and potentially being arrested, it's a cause for concern. When that person is in a position of leadership, it's doubly so. When that person is the Speaker in the National Assembly, well, it must ring and cause alarm bells. It has to. It naturally has to. So with that in mind, there's been huge discussion around the future of the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, over the last few days. But of course, understandably, she would want to defend her position. And you may be aware there was an application at the Gauteng High Court to interdict them, to prevent her being arrested. Well, the news we have now, and that came through this morning, that application to the interdict to prevent being arrested for now, it was an urgent interdict. Well, that has been struck off the road. That means that falls away. So she cannot use that as a tool to prevent being arrested when? Today, tomorrow? That is exactly what we're going to find out. So let's try and make sense of all of this as we get a sense of the pulse of what you think as well, with Dr. Llewellyn Kerr-Lewis, who's the legal expert at the Faculty of Law at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Kerr-Lewis, appreciate your time and good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to speak to you. And, from my side, also welcome to SAFM again.
Okay, I'm just trying to connect with the sound on this side so we can connect with you properly. Just give me a second. Let me just remind you on this side here that there'll be different things we're doing. At some stages, we're going to talk to guests. At some stage, we'll pick up your calls. We'll get WhatsApp. Certainly, we'll do that all the time. And live calls as well is what we're going to do. So we'll do all of that as we just try and connect with different technical issues in just a moment. So just be patient with me as we get in here. I think we're going to be okay now. All right. Okay, we're going to do it. Okay, you can hear me now. I certainly can.
Yes, Dr. I can certainly hear you.
So you may want to. Okay, I got that part now. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Right. So okay, my welcome. But there's certainly an issue of that interdict is not welcome by the Gauteng High Court. Let's get to that and what has happened today that is so significant.
Well, today, what happened is Judge Sylvette Pottrell gave judgment in the matter that served before the urgent court last week. To cut the long story short, the matter was struck from the roll because of a lack of urgency. That was the main reason it was struck off the roll. That being said, I do agree with the verdict of the judge. As far as I'm concerned, one, there was no urgency at all, and two, it would have been an untenable situation, an unprecedented interdict if successful lodged by the Speaker of Parliament.
And let me confirm. And the principle was what? The interdict was to prevent being arrested, right?
That's correct. Look, there are four methods to secure the attendance of an accused before court. Arrest is only one such method, and surely it's the prerogative of the SAPS to decide which one is the most appropriate in the circumstances. Now, usually we are talking about serious offences, and this one is very serious. I mean, it's a commercial crime in excess of 2 million rands, so it's considered very, very serious. Then one would expect an arrest. But that being said, nothing prohibits the police to decide on a mere summons to appear in court. If she gives the undertaking that she will appear in court, and allegedly she and a legal team said they will, then there's no reason for arrest, as long as the person comes before court one way or another. That is the purpose of an arrest in any event. So I'm happy to say, look, the judge was right. Nobody can prevent the SAPS to get secure your attendance before court, and that is exactly what she tried to achieve by bringing that.
Okay, so now that's been thrown out. What then are the implications over the next few days here? What's going to happen?
Well, investigations must be completed. In other words, the police must do whatever they want to secure the necessary evidence for a possible conviction from their perspective, at least. Then what will happen is the moment they are ready to take the matter to court, they will either arrest her or they will obviously inform a legal team to ensure that she represents herself at court by way of a voluntary attendance, alternatively maybe even a summons, which means that she will then receive documents from court indicating that she must appear in a specific court at a specific time, 14 days from the date of delivery of that summons. Those are the two options as far as I'm concerned. The other two methods of securing attendance being an indictment and a Section 56 notice is not really applicable in the circumstances that we have in this instance.
Mm-hmm. And from her side, from the National Assembly Speaker's point of view, I mean, they would look at it, an arrest is not a court case. I mean, that will follow. We understand that, right? But in terms of being strategic about how the National Assembly Speaker would respond to the options that she has. I mean, how do you see this thing playing out?
Well, I'm sure there will be some leeway given to the Speaker, because obviously he's a very well-known person and obviously a leadership position in the country, knowing very well that we are in an election year. That being said, she must be treated like everybody else. I do not like a situation that some people can be regarded as above the law, and therefore she must be treated as you and me would if we were in the same situation and accused of the same type of transgressions.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Shamila Batoyi said a few days ago, sort of almost admitted, and I'm paraphrasing that there's been a sense that high-profile people are being treated differently, not so much in the conviction, but in a process of an arrest. I mean, she did say that, didn't she?
Well, she did. Well, at least that was the gist of what she said. And I think from her perspective, and to protect the integrity of the NDPP, which she is the head of, she must ensure that perspective in the general public is taken away. In other words, she must make sure that whatever president is out there, in this instance, the Speaker of Parliament, that must set the tone for future arrests of other possible leaders in this country, and needless to say, also for everybody else on street. So I do like the idea that this urgent application at least was thrown out by court, because the court, in no uncertain terms, indicated that this will set an untenable situation and precedent for future transgressors. I mean, if she was successful in this application, can you imagine that each and every potential accused person in a fraud matter or a money laundering matter will immediately run to court on an urgent basis and ask that the court bring out an interdict to prevent the SAPS from arresting that person.
Mm-hmm. I do take it, and I'm preempting here, but I mean, assuming again, if the Speaker is arrested, I mean, she would likely be out on bail, right? So it's a formality. But so therefore, the big concern around arrest is what? The humiliation of a public spectacle and the damage it has on, even in terms of the public eye reputation. Is that how you see it?
That is true. I mean, there's always the humiliation aspect to be concerned about. One, but two, I mean, nobody said by merely being arrested you have convicted or you have been found guilty of the offence at all. I mean, after all, and I've already said it, it is possible also to secure attendance in court by means of a mere summons. Nobody said there must be a bail application following an arrest and when she's brought before court. The court can even merely warn her to appear on each and every occasion. The crux of a bail application in any event is merely to see to it that the accused stands trial in a court of law. And what you actually do is you give an undertaking or a guarantee to the court by means of paying an amount of money or otherwise to ensure that there's no ways that you will unnecessarily try to run away or skip the country or things like that we typically find in high-profile cases where there are a lot of money at stake.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as we wrap up, remind me once again, what are the charges? What's the issue surrounding the National Assembly Speaker?
Well, apparently, when she was still the Minister of Defence, there was some bribe money paid over in cash in excess of, I remember, 2.5 or 2.8 million rands that she received in cash bags at a homestead by some entrepreneur that was also affiliated to the Department of Defence. And apparently that is one of the main charges, in other words, corruption, inter alia also maybe bribery, and by implication transgressions of FICA, the Financial Intelligence Centres Act, also money laundering, because it was not declared to SARS. So there's a lot of potential statutory offences besides the ordinary ones of fraud and obviously possibly money laundering.
And we certainly will see what happens next. And I have a sense you and I will have another chat sometime soon. Much appreciate your input this afternoon, Dr. Llewellyn Kerr-Lewis, legal expert from the Faculty of Law at the University of Pretoria. So that's his thoughts. What's your thoughts? Really, the show, let me emphasize again, is called The National Pulse. So do you feel that? Do you feel what's happened there around the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, in terms of what that means, that the attempt to stay out of being arrested, well, that's not going to happen. How does that make you feel? Do you have any thoughts on it? I want to know like right now. You can WhatsApp me via a voice note, text or voice note, 0614 104 107. You can also call in 086 000 2032. And if you tuned in for the very first time, today that is, my name's Ashraf Garda, and I'm the host of the show, The National Pulse. And every day we certainly want to get a pulse and a barometer of what we're feeling, not just in this country, but all around the world. Okay, talking about that, next up, there's a significant movement with regard to the Israeli Prime Minister, or the government of Israel, with regard to the global news agency Al Jazeera. We'll get to that in a moment.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's... you may have followed this morning, like just about every minute in the Middle East, in particular with regard to Israel, Palestine, Gaza, there are developments, isn't it? So the latest development amongst many, the Israeli parliament approving a law that allows the government the power to ban the broadcast of TV channels, not specifically Al Jazeera, but the broadcast of TV channels. However, having said that, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has already come on board very quickly, and he has named Al Jazeera and to get them off air, meaning their signal being broadcast in Israel, and he would have the power to do that. So let's find out exactly what that really means, because I just think as I talk, there are so many angles to that particular story. Dambisa Fakude is with me, Senior Research Fellow at AFRIS, the Africa-Asia Dialogue, and I should say, once the Bureau Chief of Al Jazeera, a long, long time ago. So you would have an insider knowledge of that, Dambisa. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Right, well, what do you make of what's happened, A, with the Israeli government, and B, with regard to the pronouncements by their Prime Minister regarding Al Jazeera?
Well, it's not the first time they've tried this. They've tried it before, and it looks as if now it's going to go ahead with the vote that took place in the Knesset yesterday, which had 71 votes to 10 against. So it looks like it's going to happen. And, of course, it's to protect Benjamin Netanyahu, whatever it takes for him to hide his heinous crimes that continue unabated in Gaza and the West Bank, he will have to do whatever it takes for him to do that. But again, it's not necessarily aimed at Al Jazeera, but all other international media institutions that are based in Israel who, for some reason, will offend senior ministers of Israel, might just find themselves on the wrong side of the law this time around.
Well, what do you understand by the motive? I mean, for me, it may sound pretty obvious, but I'm not going to assume anything. What do you understand by the motive? Why would the Israeli government and then the Prime Minister then follow through on this?
Well, because it's only Al Jazeera at the moment that has kept the story. The byline in Al Jazeera has been read since October 7th. In other words, they've been continuing telling the story as it's happening. Their investigative unit has gone in to dig in some of the stories that are not covered by other organizations in the Middle East. So only Al Jazeera is telling the story. If we looked, for example, at the protest that took place over the weekend, thousands of people protesting outside in the streets of Tel Aviv. Again, it was Al Jazeera that amplified and continued to tell that story. So it's because of exactly that Benjamin Netanyahu feels now that Al Jazeera is working with Hamas and all other.
But there's almost two stories going on in Israel, isn't it? One is the issue of that Hamas attack on October 7th, and of course the reprisal from Israel now, particularly in the region of Gaza on the one hand. On the other hand, you and I know there's been ongoing protests in Israel, I think for about 6 months, maybe even more, every week leading up to October 7th. And the protests were by Israelis against the Israeli Prime Minister himself, about being around issues of so-called judicial reform in inverted commas, and a massive move to clamp down on him. So, in fact, he himself has been largely out of favor, not by a general vote, but certainly by masses of Israeli people, right?
Yes, indeed, and those two stories are huge stories, and Al Jazeera has continued to tell both stories, by the way, investing a number of resources, including employing more journalists in occupied Jerusalem and inside Israel proper. This is outside, of course, West Bank and Gaza, but inside Israel, Al Jazeera has invested more, not only in their offices, but also in terms of employing people to tell those stories. So I think that's what has irritated Benjamin Netanyahu. But the last straw for me, I think, was what happened over the weekend, where thousands of people are protesting against him, although other institutions were a little bit mute in terms of telling that story. Al Jazeera went all out to tell that, and I think that was the last straw, and that's why we saw that vote yesterday.
And just lastly, and you've got like 30 seconds to respond to this. I mean, Netanyahu himself, very specific about the position of Al Jazeera. In fact, I think sort of calling them terrorists themselves and effectively being participants in that attack on Israel proper on October 7th. Just your quick response to that.
Yeah, of course, that's not true. That's ridiculous. And I think Al Jazeera issued a statement already saying that those were ridiculous accusations. Nothing of the sort occurred on 7 October.
Okay, broader question is, what would that mean in terms of fallout for free press as well as for Israel? But maybe don't answer that now, because we probably need to have that conversation maybe later on in this week. Tembisa Fakuri, I appreciate your time. Senior Research Fellow at AfriCID, which is the Africa-Asia Dialogues, and talking about that and the big news stories of the day. There are certainly developing stories every single half an hour, and you know that. So let's get the latest news headlines with Anne Musa.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Ashraf. In the headlines, spokesperson for the National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says discussions will be held with the NPA regarding handing herself over to the Littleton police station in Pretoria. A businessman has been shot and killed and 2 others wounded at a tavern at Mutetema village outside Groblersdal in Limpopo. And the Hawks in the Western Cape say they are investigating the murder of an off-duty police official at the weekend. The officer succumbed to his injuries after being shot at a car wash in Delft on the Cape Flats. I'll have details on these and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Now, when last have I ever introduced Rob Byrne? Eye on the traffic. I'll do it again, Rob.
Good afternoon. Major delays on Durban's Southern Freeway. Vehicles overturned at Congella if you're leaving the city centre on the M4 down towards the M7 exit. That's a heavy one. There's also queues on the N3 Pavilion to Paradise Valley on your way out to Pinetown. Bottom and Midrands N1 South, a crash there by Beclue interchange. Very heavy coming through from the Allendale Road exit. And the R21 on your way to the airport, having left Pretoria, queuing into the roadworks at Clayville. The Mike 1's heavy both ways between Grayston Drive and Glenhove Road. Big backlogging both ways there between Melrose and Sandton. And if you're driving into Cape Town, a little bit of probably post-long weekend traffic, just jamming on the N2 inbound through Somerset West.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, for the very first time, to me, what's up in sport?
So much and welcome to SAFM.
Thank you.
All right, let's get straight into what's happening in the world of sports, starting off with rugby. Well, the Sharks might be without the services of Eben Etzebeth when they resume their European Challenge Cup campaign next week. Etzebeth injured his ribs on Saturday and is doubtful for the round of 16 encounter with Zebre next Sunday.
No, Vincent's sick. So Vincent Koch's sick, and Vincent Chatuka got a little bit of a knee injury, but he carried on, played 80, so it can't have been too bad. Yeah, we don't know yet, so he'll need a scan. We're hoping that it's just a cartilage. So if that's the case, he could be out for 2 or 3 weeks. He's pretty sore, but again, we'll got plenty of time to have a look at that.
In football, there's one DStv Premiership clash today, and it's Mamelodi Sundowns who are looking to solidify their spot at the top of the log when they face a struggling Richards Bay side tonight. The Natal Rich Boys are currently 15th in the league table and will be looking to collect the maximum of 3 points to pull them out of the relegation zone. They collected a total of 14 points in 21 matches this season, while the Brazilians have collected an impressive 46 points. So if Sundowns wins today, they go up to 49 points in 19 games.
So let me interrupt you. I thought Sundowns won the league after the first 8 games or something. Didn't they win like 8 in a row or 10 in a row or 15 in a row?
Listen, they haven't won the league as yet.
What's
but
the
it
points
seems
gap
like
now?
they're getting there. Come again?
What's the points gap between them and second?
The points.
I mean, is it close enough to be concerned, or is it like a given that Sundowns have won the
It's not that close.
Okay.
It's not that close.
Well,
they're still quite far. They're comfortable. Let me say that.
Okay.
They're comfortable. They actually 28. Oh wait, so I'm wrong. They are sitting on 46 points, while Stellenbosch is sitting on 35.
Well, I mean, that tells you. So they did win the league in the first 8 games or
Yeah.
something along that line. Okay, what else?
All right, then Cape Town Spurs are waiting to hear from the Premier Soccer League regarding their complaint about the status of Morocco Swallows players. The Urban Warriors played their clash against the Dube Birds yesterday under protest. Now, Spurs are protesting that Swallows players are not registered or improperly registered following the club's decision to deregister all their players following their strike in December. The team had until the end of business today to lodge a fully written protest with the league and to pay a fee of 20,000 rand. So we'll keep you up to date with the response from the PSL if they do respond. And then moving on to women's football, then UK-based women's football agent Chris Atkins says that a move to Europe for University of Western Cape trio Bongeka Gamete, Subelele Holweni and Nokolo Qisani are next on the cards. Atkins just sealed a double deal for twins Tubelihle and Siphumelele Shamase, who recently signed for FC Gintra, and the TMG talent manager has also taken the likes of Linda Mutlalo back to the National Women's Soccer League in USA.
We have Bongeka, Sibulele, and Nokolo. Excuse my pronunciation. I'm not very good with the... So, yeah, Sibulele, Nox, and Bongeka at UWC. I think injuries prevented a couple of moves there in the last few months. So, they're probably on the lookout for opportunities. And then beyond that, we'll have to see. But those three, in terms of being national team regulars and obviously a little bit more mature than even the Shamases, like they're definitely on the lookout for opportunities coming forward.
Ending things off with tennis, former US Open champion Dominic Thiem says that he hopes his approach of cutting down the intensity of his training will help prevent a recurring wrist injury. The 30-year-old has struggled to get back to top form after suffering a wrist injury back in 2021. It sidelined him for months and saw him slip down the rankings. The two-time French Open finalist claimed his first win on the ATP Tour in 2024 yesterday, and he next faces Richard Gasquet tomorrow as he keeps his hopes of reclaiming his glory days alive. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. Ke nna Tumeng Kgapele.
The Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, believes in the power of transformation and driving sustainable economic growth. We're not just financiers, we're architects of opportunity and partners in shaping our communities for a shared, brighter tomorrow. Our mandate for inclusivity in the economy is the reason we fund Black industrialists, Black-owned companies, women, and youth-empowered enterprises. Speak to us for tailored funding support and let us catalyze industries and create jobs together. The IDC.
Unforgettable happens when the young and the old know they can surf, snorkel, fish, enjoy whale watching, and end the day with sundowners neshisa nyama. KwaZulu-Natal is a jewel waiting to happen. Ziyakhipha with hiking, horse riding, biking, ziplining, and mountain biking adventures waiting for the fearless and the bold. Unforgettable happens here. Zwagala. Brought to you by Tourism KwaZulu-Natal.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
I tell you what, here's a thought for you, okay? What about, because I made the point earlier on that, SAFM broadcasts right throughout the country, so I don't know where you are. So where are you? What about taking a picture? You could be sitting in your car, you could be sitting at your lounge, you could be sitting at work, you could be sitting at the beach, I don't know. What about taking a picture of where you are listening to this show, The National Pulse, right now, and if you can, with a picture of the dial locked onto SFM, that'll be just great, okay? And if you do that, you can WhatsApp us. I'll be able to check it out. You can also tweet it out on X, and you tweet it out, just tag SFM Radio, and you tag me, Ashraf Garda, but do use that hashtag, The National Pulse. I'm absolutely looking forward to see who listens where all around the country. We also know, talking about Cape Town, because I mentioned the beach, we have Solly from Cape Town. Solly, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Hey, my brother, it's so good to have you back. When you left 5 years ago, we were crying, and now you're back, and we're so happy.
Oh, I certainly remember that voice, and you ever the activist, isn't it?
Yes, and if you remember, we're going to miss Adrian, but I must tell you, they couldn't have found a better replacement in you. You're investigative, you're good, you're to the point. And let me also tell you that you are not addressing South Africa. You're addressing a global audience. All my friends, even when I travel, on the SABC Plus app, you can listen to you anywhere in the world.
I think it's an apt reminder of that app, and you're right. I mean, thank you for bringing all your friends in, and we need to encourage them as well to not just listen, but also to communicate with us from wherever they may be, isn't it?
Wherever you are. And brother, it's good to have you back. I feel the guy's sorry because you're so investigative, you're to the point, you're bold, and I think you'll do a great job. I'm just happy you left with the same team that Eldrin had. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much. And let me just tell you about our team, because Solly, thanks for that, much appreciated. People often ask this question, so what's the role of a presenter and what's a producer? So here's my simple analogy. Okay, we just come off sport now with Tumi, right? So the producer is the coach of the team. The presenter is the captain. I'm the captain, and the production team headed by Temba Dlamini, well, he's the coach. Lebo's helping in today, standing in. That gives you a sense of the relationship of how we work, okay? There we are. Fred in Polokwane, welcome to the show. Hi.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. Good to connect with you, Fred.
Happy, man, happy. Let me say, those who are actually welcoming you back, welcome back. We are happy to have you back again on air.
Much appreciated. It's really, really kind of you to say so.
Cool. I wanted to comment about the case which has been lodged as an application made by the Speaker of the Parliament.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it is very true that everyone has got the rights, but
there's instances whereby I start to question some of the rights that we as people are having and the kind of presidency that we want to, bring upon or to put in the country as a wide. I mean, the moment you hear that you have got cases to answer, why can't one just wait for the cases to come? So you respond to cases without one trying to stop. Because the moment when you try to stop this, you start to raise an alarm to people to say, no, what is it that you're trying to protect? Because if really it's a matter of one being deformated in any way, you still have got a better privilege to can sue back. But when you start and jump before the gun, you start to raise an alarm to say, no, indeed there's something that one has to answer for. So for what the Speaker of the Parliament has done, although one can call it the right, but the right which are very questionable like this, it's something that we mustn't just, made upon to be something that is a privilege to everybody. These are the kind of things that basically deter or aim to deter the justice to prevail.
Well, let's see let's see how it plays out, right? At the end of the day. Let's see how it all plays out then.
The truth of the matter is, I do understand that people have got the right, and I do understand that people can do what they want to. But a lot of things that basically people want to, they basically try to, put a wrong precedent in the justice system.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you cannot in any way try to prevent something that was not tested in any way. And the moment you feel like people are there to suppress or harm your personal rights, wait for them. Let it happen.
I agree.
So that you can be able to sue back. And once again, for everybody who is within the context of the country, it's just unfortunate because some of us are not financially favored. But it starts to make a situation whereby one will basically, after hearing that you will be arrested, one will basically want to go to court and approach the courts or whatever the agent application is might to say, no, I don't want to be arrested because jail is not a good place for one to be.
Well, absolutely. Fred, let's leave it at that. But I think, just to end with, I think here's the point. Every time, people of high profile are arrested, there's always a sense of, there's going to be fiddling around, there's going to be meddling, there will be no justice. I have a sense that one of the great features of South Africa, often, and I'll use this word often, of building a champion nation is, I think our prosecuting authority, by and large, our judiciary, all those system checks and balances, apart from government, I think is in my opinion, is admirable. Okay, and that's something we need to absolutely guard and treasure because it's that important. Okay, I've seen a few people are sending out some pictures which I'm thrilled about. Let's get a couple of voice notes that I want to let me hear that.
Good evening, the legend. Good evening, Ashraf. Welcome back to where you belong, to the talk. Because we are meant for a talk show. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise for you to come back before the election, because there's a lot that I believe you can discuss. Particularly, I know you take on people. You express your view. You let them express their view. That's what I like about you, about that. Welcome back, legend. It's Mazo in East London. Thank you.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Mazo. You can be my publicist at this rate. It's really appreciated. A blessing in disguise. I take them on. Welcome home. So you've said it so well. And now I'm a few minutes into the studio, but you certainly make me feel at home. And I'm really wanting to be at home. You don't want to come here and not be here. I absolutely want to be here at home. Let's get another voice note.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the SAFM listeners. Let me take this opportunity, Ntate Gara, to welcome you back. For me, you were the reason why I started listening to talk radio, especially SAFM. And when I heard that you're coming back, it was actually an excitement, not to say that I was excited that Eldrin is going, but I can guarantee to all South Africans that you are good at what you do, and you're definitely going to feel this one quite better. Thank you very much for coming back. Welcome to SAFM. It's Teboho in Creek Avon.
Thanks for that, Teboho. And I'll tell you what, I've got my hands on my pulse because you're making me feel really nice about it. Really lekker, let's call it that. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Many people have asked this question to say, wherever you may be in the country, tell me where you are. And if you can, take a picture of where you are. And if you are able to take a picture with your with a picture on the dial of SAFM, post that picture via WhatsApp. You can do that right away, which is 0614 104 107. That'll be great. If you can also tweet it out on X, that's even better. Tag SAFM Radio. Use the hashtag The National Pulse. I must get used to that. And then do tag me, Ashraf Garda. Looking forward to seeing all those pictures, really. And there's some already coming through, which are just absolutely great. There's an important issue around savings, which you need to know about next.
Did you know that government has set a minimum amount for employers to pay their employees and workers? In 2018, the National Minimum Wage Act 09 of 2018 was passed in South Africa. It makes it compulsory for all employers to pay employees and workers a minimum wage. In 2024, the national minimum wage for all workers, including domestics, farm and forestry workers, is 27 Rand 58 cents per hour. The minimum wage for workers on the Expanded Public Works Program, EPWP, is 15 Rand 16 cents. If your employer is not paying you the national minimum wage, please contact a labour inspector at a labour centre near you. The Department of Employment and Labour, working for you.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield. It's for the bozzers who switch off the geyser when no one's home. And for our clever, who get that there's food at home means exactly that. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, when you have money and you put money away in savings and you find that you need money, well, your pulse absolutely gets racing for the wrong reasons because it really gets to you, okay? But there could be some reprieve of sorts. You know, you may be aware of this. There was the National Assembly passed a two-pot retirement system, and there's implications of that effective on the 1st of September, which is Spring Day, which is, period of absolute growth. Let's try and find out, make sense of that with the COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator, Matthew Parks. Matthew, appreciate your time and welcome to the show. And I'll repeat it for those who don't know, we are calling it the National Pulse. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. And yeah, good to have you on the radio.
Much appreciated. So tell me what's happening about this two-pot system effective 1st of September and what it means to people listening.
So it's something that COSATU first tabled during COVID in 2020 when workers were not getting any relief. They were waiting for relief from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, yet they had money in their pension fund and they couldn't access it without resigning from their jobs. COVID has come and gone, but the pressures facing workers are still there. The rising cost of living, many workers haven't received increases. Many workers are drowning in debt, public and private sector workers. And right now, under the law, you can only get relief from your pension fund when you retire, or if you resign, or if you lose your job. So it creates a bit of a problem because many workers then choose to resign from their job just to cash out their pension fund to get some relief. So that creates a problem. It gives you momentary relief that you can pay off your debts, but then the day after you're unemployed and you've got no pension fund left. And the consequence is when many workers reach retirement, they retire in poverty. So we've had good engagements over the past couple of years with government, with Treasury, with Parliament, with the pension fund industry. We have a consensus on a new, what is called the two-pot pension reforms. Legislation is before Parliament. There are two bills providing for this. The first bill has been passed by both houses of Parliament, so it's awaiting the President's signature. And the second bill has been passed by the National Assembly last week, Wednesday, and is now before the National Council of Provinces. And they should pass it by the end of April, roughly. They'll then go to the President to sign. Then, of course, Treasury must promulgate it, and then the South African Revenue Service must just adjust the tax systems. And one significant part, Ashraf, is for the pension funds to prepare themselves. They've got a fair bit of administrative work to do in terms of freeing up liquidity, which is one issue, but also to amend their pension fund goals, a second issue. So we are making good progress. We're on track for the 1st of September implementation date, but there's still a significant amount of work to do. But I think for us it's quite positive that workers can remain working. They don't need to resign in the new system. They can access relief on the 1st of September up to 10% of the existing savings, up to 30,000 rand. And then going forward, once a year, they can access a third of the future savings. These won't be enough to settle your home loan and your car loan. No amount of relief would actually be enough to solve that. But you can remain employed. You can get basically the equivalent of a 13 check September and once a year going forward. And over time, that's going to help to pay off credit card debt, short-term debt, plug other financial holes like medical bills, car repairs, etc., whilst at the same time preserving more for when you retire. So it's not perfect, but it's a fair compromise, and I think it's going to help to address many issues over the short and the longer term.
And just very quickly, and you've got about a minute to answer this, right? In terms of how it's going to play out, I know you've given me some examples, right? Do you see this as relief? Much needed relief for a very, very embattled consumer, price of petrol going up later this afternoon, I know that. Or do you see, the flip side, which is it's a sense of instant gratification coming out of concern, but in reality they may still find themselves falling short long term because any money taken out of any fund will affect you?
Yeah, so look, it does many things. Look, it won't solve the issue of unemployment, it won't solve the issue of poverty or indebtedness, etc. That's an economic issue that has to be resolved. So the pension fund can never resolve that, but it's going to give relief to workers who are literally drowning in debt. Whether your workers work as teachers, whether they work as police officers, or they work as a cashier in a supermarket, all workers are really battling. So the 30,000 rand that workers could claim up to on the 1 September, that's going to help plug a lot of holes. And again, it's not going to solve all of the debt issues. No 30,000 rand can do that, but it can pay off a credit card bill. If you pay off a credit card, that maybe that frees up 1,000 or 2,000 rand of your salary every month. That gives you some relief as well. But going forward, once a year, you're going to get a 13 check. And everybody knows a 13 check helps in many fronts. It doesn't end poverty. It won't do that. It doesn't end indebtedness. It won't do that.
Okay.
But it gives relief. But at the same time, Ashraf, the last point, now that you don't have time, it also will help to preserve more because right now workers are just simply choosing to resign and cash out everything.
And you don't want that. Yeah, I think that's a particularly, you don't want people to really cut themselves, to a position where they're prepared to get money at any cost, even losing jobs. That's absolutely crazy. Point well made. Matthew Parks, COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator. Now, talking about jobs and money, there's an issue of SARS after this.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I'll tell you what, sometime this afternoon, the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kieswetter, made some comments about a range of issues, including revenue collection, understandably. So let's try and make sense of what's come through with the SARS Deputy Commissioner, Johnston Makubo. Appreciate your time and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us, and greetings to you and your listeners.
Thank you. When SARS talks, people get a notice about them, then the pulse always races, and sometimes not for good reason. You know that. So, having said that, you're talking about from what is in the national interest. What came through today?
Today we were pleased to announce that we've closed our financial year on the 31st of March, and for that year under review, we saw revenues coming in at 1.741 trillion. Notably in that number is that the revenues would have been higher by 9.6 billion compared to the estimate that the minister would have given in February, and that was quite welcome in our organization because we've been hard at work to try and make sure that we improve on revenue collections in the period under review.
Okay, but there were some particular pronouncements made by the SARS Commissioner, right? And I'm talking like bullet point highlights. What can you tell us?
Look, significantly in the numbers that we are reporting today, we have in particular seen around 293 billion that we have collected in compliance efforts. We run a compliance program that has yielded the 293 billion rands that we've put up. We believe, Ashraf, that that 293 billion that comes out of the efforts of the 12,500 SARS employees wouldn't have been in the fiscals if it was not for the dedicated focus from SARS. Time will fail us if I have to go through a detailed breakdown of that 293 billion that I'm making reference to. But suffice to say that wherever there is non-compliance that is prevailing, our mandate enjoins us to ensure that we maximize compliance in the tax ecosystem, but also that we ensure that every revenue is collected. You'd have heard the commissioner saying that we saw in excess of 1 million people that got into our register that collected or contributed around 6.2 billion rands. That talks to organic growth. And we continue to look at tax-based broadening, but also to make sure we enforce and make sure that those that are not paying their fair share do comply, so that the burden is not shared only.
Is shared, absolutely.
Those that
okay, I'll tell you what, we got about 40 seconds to go, so maybe just let's touch on this. I think the commissioner made a point about rebates and refunds, which I think has particular interest for the audience. What did he say?
No, he provided that we paid out in total 414 billion rands in refunds in total, which, if you want to put it in GDP terms, is 6% of GDP. And a large portion of that, 120 billion, he indicated that it went into SMMEs, which is important in making sure that SMMEs continue to get cash flow from the tax administration, which we know is the lifeblood of any small business. Again, he indicated that there's about 37 billion that went to individuals. Again, we know that these refunds are very important in an economy that is highly constrained, and processing them timeously is important. But also making sure that we cap those refunds that are claimed in an impermissible way and a fraudulent way. And the commissioner spoke to about 53 billion rands that we stopped in VAT refunds that were claimed that were either fraudulent or impermissible.
Okay, so it's a case of yes and ouch all at the same time, all a matter of perspective indeed. Thank you for your time, Johnston Makubu, the SARS Deputy Commissioner. Much appreciate your enlightening us on this issue about the taxes that a country needs to be able to run effectively and efficiently. Just gone 4 o'clock. Let's get the news with Ann Musa.
Thanks, Ashraf. In our top stories, talks regarding Mapisa Nqakula handing herself over and off-duty police officer gunned down. Good afternoon. The spokesperson for the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, says discussions will be held with the NPA regarding handing herself over to the Littleton police station in Pretoria. Mike Ramahoma says the urgent interdict application launched by the Speaker was only to ensure that she present herself with a legal representative who was busy with a different matter in the KwaZulu-Natal division of the High Court. This follows corruption allegations levelled against the Speaker by a defence contractor over incidents that allegedly occurred during her tenure as Defence Minister. Ramahoma spoke to SABC News after the High Court in Pretoria dismissed the Speaker's urgent interdict application, asking the court to prevent the state from arresting her.
If she has to be called in either through a summons or to come to a court or a police station, she needs to be able to do that when a lawyer is available, and the date that were put that the attorney will be available was the 3rd of April, which is tomorrow. And so in a way, we were able to ensure that she is, if she is required, she goes there with a lawyer, and the lawyer will be available from tomorrow. Anytime from there, we can arrange such an appearance. There will be discussions with the NPA in terms of what is the next move now, and those matters will be decided there.
Meanwhile, the DA is demanding its motion of no confidence against Mapisa Nqakula be debated and voted on this week. The DA's application for the motion was accepted by the acting Speaker, Lichisa Tsinodi, last week after Mapisa Nqakula placed herself on special leave. The DA Chief Whip Siviwe Khwagube says they welcome the High Court in Pretoria's ruling dismissing Mapisa Nqakula's urgent interdict application.
This is an important decision because it sends a clear message that individuals who are facing serious allegations cannot evade accountability, and that all are equal before the law, and that your political connections will not allow you to evade accountability or allow you to be treated with kid gloves by law enforcement agencies. Additionally, what this decision does is affirm the DA's call for a motion of no confidence against Mapisa Nqakula and the urgency with which it must be debated and voted on.
A businessman has been shot and killed and 2 others wounded at a tavern at Mutetema village outside Groblersdal in Limpopo. The 38-year-old businessman was sitting with 2 of his friends when an assailant opened fire on them. Police spokesperson Malisela Lidwaba says a case of murder and 2 charges of attempted murder have been opened.
The victim was socializing with friends near their vehicle outside a tavern when unidentified assailant indiscriminately opened fire on the group. Tragically, the businessman sustained fatal injuries, succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds on the scene, while his companions were promptly transported to a nearby medical facility for urgent treatment.
The Hawks in the Western Cape say they are investigating the murder of an off-duty police official at the weekend. Hawks spokesperson Siyabulela Vukubi says the officer succumbed to his injuries after being shot at a car wash in Delft on the Cape Flats. Vukubi says the circumstances surrounding the incident on Good Friday are being investigated. He says no one has yet been arrested. Cape Town police earlier confirmed the Delft police station registered a murder and attempted murder case following the shooting. No further details are available at this stage. And finally, Bissarou Diomaye Faye has been sworn in as President of Senegal to become Africa's youngest elected leader. Earlier this month, Faye won the delayed election, securing 54% of the vote, ahead of his main challenger, Amadou Ba. The BBC's Thomas Nadi has the details.
It's a very historic moment for the people of this country. Mr. Diomaye Faye is the youngest democratically elected president in Senegal and on the continent of Africa. You speak to a lot of people on the streets of Dakar and you get the sense that they are very hopeful he will be able to bring about the change that they've been yearning for. Security has been beefed up and there's limited access to the conference center where the event is currently taking place. A lot of diplomats are also in attendance, as well as representatives from other countries.
Recapping the top story, the spokesperson for the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nqakula, says discussions will be held with the NPA regarding handing herself over to the Littleton police station in Pretoria. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Ben Stokes asked not to be considered for T20 World Cup to focus on his fitness, and Arteta says Arsenal need to win all their remaining 9 matches to be crowned Premier League champions. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. Good news from Durban. The M4 Southern Freeway, the crash down at Umbilo Congela, has been cleared and traffic coming out of the city centre starting to move through again. The M7 towards the Bluff, fairly heavy backlogs at Rossborough area, down towards the container yard. If you're on your way through to the Bluff area, just be aware of that M7. It's been queuing reasonably heavy today. A little bit of traffic on the Kwamashu Highway, just heading out of Kwamashu down towards the N2. And if you're leaving Pietermaritzburg, a reminder of the breakdown at Ashburton, quite a heavy queue forming up from almost around Market Road today. Bottom of Midrand up in Gauteng, a crash at Buccleuch interchange. That traffic is heavy. It's all the way back almost to New Road. If you're on your way into Joburg this afternoon, that is a heavy queue. The Mike 1 going north towards Greyston Drive is slow, and the roadworks on the R21 at Clayville backing traffic up as you approach that Olifantsfontein exit. If you're leaving Pretoria, got flights at the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through that. Cape Town, you can see it's still school holidays, a lot lighter than normal traffic flow. Just a couple of standout queues, one on the N7 going south towards Voortrekker Road in Goodwood. The other queue's the M5, which is busy coming off the Coburg Road, Coburg interchange area, all the way down to the Milner Road exit at Rondebosch.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation. Are you a small business or cooperative looking for a business loan under R1 million? SEFA can assist through the Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program. TREP provides blended finance to various sectors, facilitating participation in the economy. SEFA services are free and don't make use of private consultants. Visit sefa.org.za. SEFA is a registered credit provider. Terms and conditions apply.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, yes, if you just tuned in, it's Ashraf Garda. This is day one for me hosting the National Pulse. As you know, that Alden St. Pierre's moved on, and we wish him well, and he's had a great rapport with you, and I'm going to try my best, absolutely, to be part of this tribe that he and you have been a part of. So please be patient with me, but give me the advice that I need, because I certainly want to be driven very much by you. That will get you to be listening every single day, longer than you've ever been, absolutely. And the advice can come in many ways. You can call in 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032, and WhatsApp. You can text or voice note 0614 104 107, 0614 107. You can certainly tweet it out, and then of course on X, so it's tag us SAFM Radio, use the hashtag The National Purpose, and you can also tag me, Ashraf Garda. Now, talking about tagging, let me tell you what it is, where I fit in here. So it's day one for me. I can tell you now, our commitment as the show is to give you everything you need that would get you listening, but to also get you to get a feel of the pulse of the nation. So the show is called The National Pulse. So many things happens every single day, whether there's an accident on the road, whether the price of petrol shoots up or goes down, maybe whether the National Assembly Speaker gets arrested, or there's implications for somebody else, or there's an election story. Every one of those things, we have no doubt about it, it affects the national psyche. Therefore, it affects the national pulse. So what then is the national pulse? What is South Africa feeling right now? What is South Africa feeling today, tomorrow, and the next day? That's what we want to reflect on this show. So largely a drive time show, largely current affairs driven, but I'll tell you what, there'll be lots of things that you need, tools that you need to have. We'll be talking about AI, artificial intelligence. In fact, we've got a great feature about innovation coming up after 5 that I would strongly suggest you absolutely have to listen to it. Talking about features, I've asked you to send out pictures of where you are listening from, so we know one of the great things about SAFM, and sometimes people forget what SA means in SAFM, South Africa FM. It's a station that talks to the entire country. So I've asked you, and I'm asking you again, send out a picture wherever you may be, where you're listening right now, with a dial locked onto SAFM so we can see it, and you can WhatsApp us to 0614 104 107, or you can also tweet it out. It'll be great. We've got about 10 or 15, I think, right? And I'm going to read out those names, not right now. We'll read them out pretty shortly, because I want to do that as well. But some of the other big issues, the petrol price gone up, and we will certainly touch on the issues of that horrific accident, as you know, about 40 plus people dying from Botswana going to Limpopo over the weekend. And you know, the sad part, there's just so many stories around that. We'll chat to the Minister Valjo Patla about that pretty shortly. But coming up in a moment, there's an issue around Visvin Reddy. He has been charged with inciting violence, and we will talk about that right after this.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Kimberley.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, in fact, we're going to get to Visvin just in a moment. Let me tell you what. So I've asked you for some pictures. Let me see it. There's a couple here. Someone driving to Kokstad Town. I can't see the name. Please put your name as well so we know. It's a beautiful picture, and again, locked into the dial of SAFM, which is just fabulous. 105, that is, right? There's a couple of more. There's one with the clouds in the sky. I'm trying to see where the picture is. I don't know who you are, but there's, Josie, somebody from Josie East here. What's your name? I don't know. And right now the skies are beautiful, and so are the sound waves. Looking forward to future programs, and so am I. Believe me, that's my views. Thrilled that you've done that. And then hashtag Radio Rocks. Got that. The other hashtag you must use is the hashtag The National Pulse, because it's that important. That's the name of the show, right? There's a Vision from Durban Beachfront. Welcome back, Ashraf. Are you at Blue Lagoon or something like that? The beachfront? Because I know Blue Lagoon, that's like a historic place, but I can see your car steering wheel and the radio dial. That's fabulous. And another listening in while driving in Chats with Unit 3. Welcome, brother. All the best from Vasi. Always listen to Aldrin. So did I, by the way, Vasi. First time listening to you, though. I've heard of you. God bless you. Much appreciated, Vasi, and do stick around. Certainly would love to have you on board. Talking about on board, Ice Block. I love the names. Ice Block. Saying hi on board in Velcom 106.1. Right, there we are. Welcome back, Ashraf. Much appreciated. And there's another. We are listening from sunny Durban. There's a couple more. Welcome back. Welcome home, rather. Grootman, I look forward to engaging you. Great to have you back. I don't get your name here, but I love the fact that you've opened up your laptop with SAFM, and it's very clear there. So listening from an app, I gather. Cool picture as far as I'm concerned. You can tweet them out as well, right? I am Mr. Mwande Kabela from the Eastern Cape at Goridi Village. Love that picture. What a beautiful picture it is. And there's more. Hitting the road from Port Shepstone to Sasolburg. That's a drive. Wow. That's from Mzukisi. Anybody in Pretoria? Anybody in Joburg? Lungile is in Durban. Anybody in Joburg? I can't believe that they're in Joburg here. Not stuck in traffic and in time to be able to post a picture. Let's see if we've got Visvan on the line. We can connect with him. Okay, there's a couple of more WhatsApps that I can just read out, but it doesn't stop you also calling some interesting ones. Good afternoon, Ashraf. Welcome back. Well, the subject of corruption by a previous defense minister. It'll be appreciated if you can bring the subject of the 600 soldiers deployed in the DRC having to share 10 toilets and being short of provisions and equipment. Thank you. Noted. TG, I think it is, saying, welcome, legend, and you are at home after 5 years, and we are still here. And anyway, I'm looking forward for your show as we move towards election time. Remember, each and every person is different from one another. Well, you're spot on. You know, you are TG, and there's no other TG that I know about. Hello, Ashraf. So lovely to hear your voice again. Welcome to SFM from Felicity in Cape Town, saying wishing you all the best. Great. Anybody else? Well, Eastern Cape. In fact, not Cape Town, Eastern Cape, right? And then going further, Southern Cape, Knysna, beautiful part of the world. Barbara saying, Ashraf, I remember your excellent coverage of your visit to Mecca years ago. That was 2017. Yeah, thank you so much. In fact, if you check out the hashtag That's My Hajj, by the way, Barbara, on social media, you will find all those pictures and all those reports that we did. There's a couple of more, another one from Kokstad, I think it is. Okay, I think we'll leave that for now. I want to just check with Lebo if we can connect. In fact, Visvin, who we should be speaking to, I understand now, does not want to talk. And I'm going to just double check if that is the case, right? He's been instructed not to speak to the media so I'm going to speak to his attorney. I'm trying to check if we can talk to his attorney. No, we can't. His attorneys are saying no. Let me give you some balance. I'll tell you what we need to do here. We probably need to get an analyst to try and make sense of what he said in a moment. But to give you some perspective here, remember Visvin Reddy? Well, he's been described as a Zuma backer for the MK party, right? So, a couple of weeks ago, he said something on video, and I watched it and I was horrified. I mean, like, really, what can you say when someone says this but be horrified? What did he say? He said, we are sending a loud and clear message. He was referring to the fact that if the courts were going to rule that the MK will not be allowed to contest the election, right? And he said, we are sending a loud and clear message. That is, these courts are sometimes captured. If they stop the MKP, there will be anarchy in this country. There will be riots like you have never seen in this country. There will be no election. No South African will go to the polls if the MKP is not on the ballot. Now, it is in that context that now, predictably, that the NPA has now charged Visvin Reddy. So we'll see how that plays out. But I asked the question to my production team, Lebo and Timber, early on to say, I can't remember, did he actually apologize? Did he retract that statement at any stage after he made that statement? And they both said, well, to the best of my knowledge, no. That's strange. So, then the next point is, did the MK party say anything about it? Not just him, just the party. Did they say anything either agreeing with him or distancing themselves from him? And maybe the last one to put to you as part of the audience, particularly if you're part of the MK party, particularly if you're one of those people who are going to vote for them and support them. What did you make of when he said there will be anarchy and nobody can go to the polls, nobody will be able to vote? What do you make of that? I mean, really? I'd love to know, although love is such a contradictory word in this context, okay? You can call in 086 000 2032, our WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. What did you make of that? But certainly now the NPA is sort of taking their route, and now they've said, well, his lawyers have advised him not to speak to the media because we had set up to speak to him. Okay, so pity, but perhaps the next option is we may get somebody else just to comment on that in terms of what that means, in terms of what sort of charge would be made and the implications thereof. There's a few voice notes that we got, and thank you for sending those voice notes. Here they are.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Zanele in Durban. I will appreciate if we can talk more about the job of the PR councillors, because they are not being held responsible. We often find the communities protesting against their ward councillors, but the same community, they don't protest against the PR councillors, whereas those PR were voted by the other members of that community. So I want to know exactly that why we don't hold them accountable, why we don't march for them, protest against them. They shouldn't be just getting paid whilst the ward councillors are being blamed for the failure of serving the communities. Thank you.
Well, I think you make a good point. What's the job of the PR councillors, proportional representation councillors, if I get it right? I tell you what, the broader issue is even the job of the MPs when they get elected, right? Directly or through proportional representation. One of the biggest issues in South Africa right now, okay? I know my local councillor at ward level for the city. I live in Joburg, so the city of Joburg. I know my local councillor. Certainly have her on WhatsApp. If you asked me who's effectively represented me at national level in Parliament for my community, for my region, I can't tell you anything. And that has been one of the biggest issues. There's no real... When they talk about report back, they do report back work at party level, at branch level, but not for those that don't necessarily support them. So we have this complete deficit between those that ultimately get elected, the work they do in Parliament, which is fine, but their accountability to report back at constituency level is largely absent. I know there's been many people who've been talking about potentially trying to get that revised, and that may play out in the next few years to a complete change, even maybe a direct vote of a president. At the moment, we don't do that. We vote for a party, and that party chooses who should lead them, and that becomes the president. It's not the other way around. Some countries vote for a president directly. I simply think that's the way to go. There's some more.
Good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM and to the new drive of our show, the National Pulse. Mr. Ashraf, my pulse towards the court ruling today towards the National Speaker. That judgment, I loved it because even for us, the laymen, that judge put the judgment in a way that even for someone who does not understand the law, it was simple for us to understand that it is wrong for someone to want to be above the law. So I think it's a good thing. It shows that no one is above the law. That's my pulse in relation to that matter. Thanks for a great show and welcome back, Mr. Ashraf.
That's very kind of you. Much appreciated. And I love the fact that you're using the word pulse, because one of the things when we decided to call the show the National Pulse, I said, I promise you what, people are going to refer to the word the pulse and what are they feeling and whether the hands are on the pulse or fingers on the pulse all the time. If it's happening within an hour of the show, well, I'm absolutely thrilled. I'll check if there's another voice note, then we'll get to Kirk as well.
Ashraf, hi. Those people of ANC which thinks they are above the law, they better enjoy now, because after 29th of May, it's not going to be the same again. It will be like they are dreaming. Why they want to be treated special? What is wrong about them? Skosana in Northern Ireland.
Are they above the law? Well, I don't know if they're above the law. If they've simply applied, I mean, that is within the rights of the law to apply. If you're referring to the Speaker of the National Assembly's application, that's within the law. The above the law would be someone saying, for example, there will be anarchy in the country if we can't contest an election. Just make the point. Okay, Kirk, what's your pulse like, Kirk, from Cape Town?
Hello, Ashraf. My pulse is racing because you are back at SAFM.
You're very kind. Thank you for that. Much appreciated.
I'm so glad that you're back. We were all Miss Algin, but you certainly are an asset to the radio station and to the airwaves. So welcome back, and I hope that your time at SAFM is as wonderful as your last time was.
Well, I mean, I had some wonderful memories, and you're right. But also, I think is to increase the level of engagement with people like yourselves and everybody else around the country as we're part of this one big group, one big tribe that makes up the audience of, in this case now, the National Pulse.
Absolutely, and we're really looking forward to that. I just wanted to make a comment also on the court ruling today regarding the Speaker. I don't know when the ANC is going to stop shooting itself in the foot and not act against its leaders who are clearly tainted, and it takes a court decision to now force their hand. I don't know what they're going to do, but I mean, with an election looming, it doesn't look great for them. So, yes.
Well, there you are. Let's see what happens. Kirk, thank you for your time, and keep on listening and keep on calling and keep on doing everything else, and tell your chommies as well to listen to. Thank you. Got that point taken. Okay, I think that's it with WhatsApp. I'm double checking, and I think we've done that. There's a few other messages. So apology about that. The Visvin Reddy story. Certainly wanted to connect with him, but we should be chatting pretty shortly to Dr. Joe Putler, the National Minister of Health, regarding that horrific story about the bus accident just leading up to the weekend, right? So we'll certainly do that. There's a few more. Ashraf, Vivian Reddy and others who have threatened the security of the country. And then if Zubda Stokvel Party is not part of the elections, and this is the right decision, and that Kanyile boy must be next. And people must remember that South Africa is currently is a country of laws, and we can't allow criminals to threaten the citizens and the state. And we can't allow the 2021 anarchy and criminality that destroyed KZN and Gauteng businesses from TG. Point well made, and others may come back and counter that as well. Okay, we'll Joe Putler, we battling to connect with him as well. Let's get to Collins from Alberton. Collins, so you're in Gauteng. Welcome to the show. Hopefully take a picture as well of Collins where you are, because we're trying to see everybody, and I want to connect with you, the audience, so do that as well. Collins, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. What's your pulse like regarding those MK threats? Tell me.
No, I was thinking I'm thinking about what is happening. What happened in is that Senegal?
Yeah.
Yeah, whereby the people, I think the elections were supposed to be cancelled and so forth, and people protested up until the government changed its mind that the elections should go ahead. And as a result of that, we see there's a new government there in Senegal. I understand the new guy is being sworn in today as the new president. So when I'm drawing
and a very young elected president at that, isn't it?
That's correct. I'm drawing a parallel line to this MKP to say if the MK people say, they've got a feeling that their party was not going to be in the ballot box. So there was never going to be elections if that happened. Is that parallel to that?
Well, I don't know if it's the same thing. Certainly, I think the MK point is clear, but the difference is, then there was in the actual election. Here's a case of if they're not there, they're not going to allow anybody else to contest. That's very, very different from putting pressure. For example, I mean, even in Israel, and I mentioned it earlier on, right? Aside with the whole issue around the Palestinians, Israel, the people of Israel have been protesting against the incumbent prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, virtually every weekend for the last 6 months or so, maybe even longer. So I think the pressure people make when they find even the ballot box is not good enough is not to be violent, but to apply pressure of systemic change that needs to take place in a country. And I think that's civil society at work, isn't it?
But these dictators, do they listen to people? I mean, what they listen is violence. I've never seen, if you look at all the countries in the world where they are protesting silent, no change you will see. People are protesting about this Palestine thing in the USA, America, and UK. But those governments are doing nothing. Up until something drastic people do, it's only when I think they will stop supporting this.
Okay. All right.
Organization.
Let's leave it at that. I mean, I think when you say do nothing, they're not protesting for their government only or against the government, protesting across the board. But Collins, I'm going to leave that. Let's get to it. Thank you for that call. Much appreciated. Okay. We got a quick one. You got 30 seconds. Colin from Cape Town wants to talk about the bus accident in Limpopo. Go ahead, Colin.
Ashraf, that bus accident, I was wondering, when people are in a bus like it, the last time the manifesto, the ANC bus accident, so many more bus accidents. I wonder, I can imagine coming from a celebration or going to a celebration or something like that. There's what I call singing and chanting in a bus or something like that. Could that not distract a driver also? Because I know when you drive a car and you've got two naughty little kids fighting at the back, your attention gets taken away from you, you know what I mean? You're not concentrating on the road.
But I think drivers are trained for that. I mean, quite honestly, I think the opposite applies where it's all quiet and the bus driver's driving late at night. That's even more difficult. I think here's the quick one because we're going to leave it. It's news time now. The biggest issue is the inability of our drivers generally, and I'm making a general statement, to be able to navigate the winding roads and the normal roads that we have around the country, and we're incapable, and it's a huge problem. And the accident rate and the bad roads reflects that because it's not just me talking. Statistically, it's a fact. Just far more people are dying in this country in accidents than perhaps close to global averages. If somebody's got the facts, maybe you could get Tembo or Lebo to just check it out. Collins, thanks for that call. Okay, let's get to the news headlines now. It's 4:30 years and Musa.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Ashraf. In the headlines, motorists will have to dig deeper into their pockets from midnight tonight as fuel prices increase. 93-octane petrol will increase by 65 cents per litre, while 95-octane goes up by 67 cents per litre. The spokesperson for the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, says discussions will be held with the NPA regarding handing herself over to the Littleton police station in Pretoria. And the University of the Western Cape, through its council, says its support calls for an immediate ceasefire and aid to Gaza. Details on these and other stories at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's a lot of traffic around the Rossborough part of Durban today. The M7 queuing down towards Recreation Road, then routes like South Coast Road heading north and south through that Rossborough area to and from the M7. Very heavy backlogs as well. If you are Bluff-bound on the M7, it's jammed up across all lanes. Also going away from the Bluff, the M7 to Bel Air and Wakesley, quite slow going as well. A breakdown just north of Spaghetti Junction on the N2, so a lot of pressure there. And a breakdown before you get to Gateway up through the roadworks, the N2 north queuing from as far back as Kwamashu already. The broken down truck at Ashburton coming out of Pietermaritzburg, that scene is being cleared. The run through Midrand on your way to Joburg stays heavy with a crash down at the Buccleuch interchange. Traffic queuing all the way back to New Road. The N1 today, so the Mike one, I beg your pardon, heavy from Parktown all the way through to Grayston Drive up towards Santon. That's a very unusual queue. And of course, the road to exit Clayville backlogging traffic and causing a delay between Pretoria and your flight connection to the airport. Cape Town today, the M3 from Hospital Bend down to Rhodes Drive at Newlands is quite slow. The N1 service road passing Canal Walk backed up towards the N7 highway and a bit of pressure on the N7 Jakes Curville Drive moving slowly through Goodwood towards Four Trekker Road Junction.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right.
What's the big stories?
Righty, we start things off with cricket this hour. England all-rounder Ben Stokes has asked not to be considered for selection for the T20 World Cup to focus on his fitness. Stokes says that he wants to use the break to ensure that he can be the all-rounder that he wants to be across all formats. He had a knee surgery in November and bowled just 5 overs during the recent 5-test series in India. The England Test captain has already opted out of the Indian Premier League, which began last month, and England are currently defending champions in the T20 World Cup, which takes place in the West Indies and United States in June. In football, Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis says that experience will count a lot in their final hurdle towards the Olympic qualifications against Nigeria. The first leg is in Abuja clash on the 5th of April before the return leg at Loftus Versfeld Stadium in Pretoria on the 9th of April. And with many players returning to the national team following injury layoffs, Ellis says that the experience from the Women's Africa Cup of Nations and FIFA World Cup will be very important.
Experience of the likes of Refiwe Jani, who's led this team with aplomb. Bamanani was absolutely magnificent at the World Cup, along with Bongeka Kamedi, and you need that experience because that experience is of players that have been in similar situations, and being in similar situations and being able to get out of the situations will really help us.
What's this Banyana always gets drawn to Nigeria?
Always, right?
Like it's every time. I can tell you that from the beginning.
It's sad that they need to play against Nigeria again
and
to qualify for the Olympics. Yeah. But it would have been so nice to have both South Africa and Nigeria at the Olympics.
I concur. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, still staying with football, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says that the Gunners will need to win the remaining 9 matches to be crowned champions of the Premier League. The second place Gunners are 2 points behind leaders Liverpool ahead of a busy April schedule. This is following Sunday's gritty goalless draw at title rivals Manchester City. Arteta has also urged his side to embrace the challenge, starting with Wednesday's game at home to relegation-threatened Luton. But before that, there's some matches to look forward to today, and pick of the day will be Tottenham Hotspur, who are eyeing top 4. They are 5th on the log, and they are away to West Ham, who are 7th on the log, and kickoff for this game is 9:15. In cricket on the go, the Royal Challengers Bangalore won the toss, and they elected to bowl first in the India Premier League, and they're coming up against the Super Giants. The Super Giants are currently looking for their second win in 3 games, while the home side is looking to even things out. The Super Giants are currently sitting on 62 for 1 after 8 overs. Ending things off with rugby, former Samoa rugby captain Mase Shwalga has been appointed head coach of the national side through to the end of the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia. Shwalga was assistant to head coach Selala Mapusua at last year's World Cup in France, where Samoa exited the pool stages after just a single win against Chile. Samoa will host Italy and Spain in July before taking part in the Pacific Nations Cup with Canada, USA, Fiji, Japan and Tonga in August. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Doming Khapele.
And I watched the Arsenal, of course, they need to win 9 in a row. And the second last game was against Manchester United. Just thought I'll just tell them so they know about it. My goodness, it's going to be a crazy story indeed. Yeah, just a quick one. I know we're out of time. Here's the thing, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Big coaches always say whoever wins the mini league between the 3 teams, that's the one that wins the league. So in this case, Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool. The team that's got the lowest points in this mini league, I don't have it with me now, I believe is Man City. It's shocking. They haven't beaten a single team in the top 6 this season.
I was just saying yesterday that it's actually great for the league, because then it makes it that much exciting.
But here's the point for the league. If Man City, who have not beaten a single team in the top six at all, and they don't play another team in the top six to the end of the season, and they already at the top, 3 points off, well, then the other teams better beware. Arsenal have got the most, but then Arsenal doesn't play anybody besides Man United in the top six. So their trump card is sort of fallen away.
True.
It's an
Which
interesting
side are you
one.
on? Which side are you on?
I'm a Red Devil. I never used to say that before, but I'm a very disgruntled, disappointed, disillusioned Red Devil. A bit of like what we think about many things in our country, which we need to get about now. So let's get to the markets. Thanks for that. So let's get to the markets with Makwe Masilela, who's the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, appreciate your time and sort of my first time to you. Welcome.
Thanks to you, Ashraf. How are you? And welcome.
I'll be better if you've got some really good news for us, local and global.
Definitely, starting with the Q1 performance, 2024. Unfortunately, for the Q1 of 2024, the all-share weakened 3.1%, the rand weakened 3.2%, but our international peers performed exceptionally well. That is the S&P up 10%, the Dow up 5.6%, the CAC up 10%, the Euro Stock 50 up 12%. Ashraf, our performance to some extent reflect our struggling economy and also uncertainty relating to the upcoming general elections, and gold for the quarter one was up 8%, Brent crude was up 12%. But yes, the U.S. job numbers on Friday will be the main highlight for the week, and monetary authorities both in Japan and China are on high alert on their currencies, and then because they've been weakening past levels that the guys have been defending for the past month, and largely thanks to a strong dollar. And in Japan, that means verbal warnings, while in China it has been a state banks buying the yuan and selling dollars. The US dollar hovered near a 4.5-month peak as traders rushed to push back bets for the Fed first interest rate cut this year, because yesterday while we were closed, the U.S. manufacturing data showed the first expansion, and that's since September 2022. We're expecting our manufacturing data tomorrow, and we know that the Eurozone manufacturing activity took a deeper dive in March, and markets are now pricing a 61% chance of the Fed cutting interest rates in June compared to 70% a week earlier, and also the Eurozone inflation point to European Central Bank rate cut in June, and Ashraf, central bankers are guarding their credibility, because if they cut rates too soon, they could reignite economies and inflation could come back. But if they don't cut quickly enough, they could get a bigger than expected economic slowdown. And we've seen that the pressure continues to build on Bitcoin, which shed more than 5% today, having fallen more than 10% from its mid-March peak, and supply threats resulting from Russia-Ukraine war and also escalating conflict in the Middle East are hitting up oil prices. Brent crude is up 0.5% at $88 a barrel, and the ongoing safe haven demand helped the yellow metal to shrug off a jump in the dollar after signs of U.S. economic strength putting a damper on the early rate cut hopes. We see gold is up 1% at 2,272, platinum up 1.1% at 924. Seems that the party music is getting lowered, because the DAX CAC down 1%, FTSE down 0.1%, the Dow just like the S&P down 1%, the JSE down 0.3%. We've been cushioned mainly by our resources, which are up 1.8%, but our financials are down 1.2%, our industrials are down 0.7%, and the rand doing better is 1878 to the US dollar, 23.59 to the pound, and 2023 to the euro.
Right. Well, there we are. We're going to certainly do the same thing around every day, in fact, this time. And don't forget, there's a business show coming up at 6 o'clock after the show. And do not miss that. I certainly listen to that show. And there's so much that you learn, not just people who are looking at sort of high-level business, especially startups, entrepreneurs, to get the type of, how to make money advice. Well, that's exactly where I would certainly go, and I would suggest you do the same. Tell you what, I was looking at some of the tweets, and people are tweeting is great, that there's a beautiful, I think from Joseph. Joseph in East London. I'm in the office in East London. I'm listening to you on the tube while I edit. Okay, well, we've got you now nationally, not just being in this show here as what we call the National Pulse, but also now on our Twitter or X profile on SAFM Radio. Thanks for sharing that indeed. Okay, we should be chatting to Joe Partler, the Minister of Health, but okay, he's just dropped, I think, at this point in time. So we're going to shuffle things around. But listen, at any stage, okay, if you wish to call in and you want to get something off your chest, so to pick up from what I said about the National Pulse, what's getting your pulses racing right now, good or bad, that you feel I need to tell the whole of South Africa about it? If you have something that you feel strongly about, that I want to hear about it, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032 rather, and then voice notes you can send to 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. You can also tweet out on X, so I still prefer the verb tweet, even if it's on X. Use the hashtag the National Pulse, right? And then you tag SAFM Radio, and please do tag me. Okay, I think we've got a caller who may want to be speaking. No, we don't have that caller. We should be doing that in just a moment or so. Okay, there's a fascinating feature. We're going to play around with him. Let's see how this goes. It's called This Day in History. And my understanding is, every day, these things come and these things go, and there's some really significant moments that take place in our lives that we sometimes forget, okay? And the question is, so what's happened this time round in terms of this day in history? We'll do that right after this.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So, what happened in the world 37 years ago? This is what happened. Ellen Kuzwayo made history. She became, this is on this day, right? She became the first black woman in South Africa to receive an honorary degree from the University of the Witwatersrand. It sounds like just by the way an honorary degree, but it's significant. Kuzwayo will always be remembered as a social worker who led a campaign to force the apartheid government to introduce a form of land ownership that would encourage private sector funding for housing in the townships. But what else did she do? What else did she stand for? And what was she like in the greater scheme of things? So we thought let's have a quick chat about the historic woman that Ellen Kuzwayo certainly was. My guest is Sipokazi Shezi, who's a private medical social worker. Appreciate your time. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, which we call the National Pulse. Now, I guess that your pulse, considering your work, is all fine, right?
Yes. Hi. Thank you for the welcome, and also welcome to the viewers as well.
Thank you. So, of course, we are talking about Ellen Kuzwayo. You've got this responsibility, effectively, of framing how significant she is.
Yeah. She's quite a great woman. Also, just having sort of just, read through just to familiarize myself, because I also went to the same university that she did, with university. But yeah, she's quite a witful woman in a sense where when we look at her education, she's someone of good knowledge. She empowered her mind. She studied, completed her studies. She became a teacher originally. And even then, she felt the need to enroll as a social worker, which she went to advance as well into social work. And she did that part-time. So, you see she comes across as someone that's very well informed in her thoughts as well, and saw the need to further on her studies, because even beyond that, she was able to write books which she was well recognized for internationally. There's a book she wrote in 1986 called Call Me Woman. And besides that, if you see the work that she did in the community, she was someone that was very inspirational, impactful. She was able to, while she was still studying and continuing with her education, she was able to be involved in the community where she worked with young people. She worked with women as well. She was part of an organization where she was the organizer. It was the South African Association of Youth Clubs. She also pioneered services for disabled youth people, as well as developed a few community projects and programs for the cities as well as for the projects in the rural areas. So she was someone that was she never sat down. If you look at the work that she did, and yet she was still studying. And she was also still a mother as well at that time. She did quite a lot. There was a period as well where she was in detention, because in the time where she was in during apartheid, especially when you're very vocal and in a political space, you're bound to sort of be, a threat to just the community. So even after that, when she went into detention, she came out, and still she was able to make her voice heard within the community. So that's when she leaned more into the social work space rather than the political space, and she still did her work and was able to create an influence in the community.
And when, upon reflection now, having known and done some more research, do you find that her position in South African society, either call it as a champion in her space, has been sufficiently acknowledged, or are we falling short?
I think we will always fall short. This is just my view. Just because so long as we're not seeing their names on the streets, or their names on every book that maybe we come across, or even just on any social media platform, then we are not recognizing or familiarizing ourselves with the work that has been done. Because truly, if you look at her history and you look at the work that she did, she passed away at the age of 91 years old. And yet, when you look at her picture, she's just this, she's this woman, skillful, very just up and about. And I think so long as we're not always aware, or even our younger generation is not aware of the work that she did, I don't think we are really telling the stories of what these women did, because it wasn't just only her. Also, Winnie Mandela was part of that group that studied social work as well, and were able to continue on the fight, developing our women and also developing our communities in those times.
Anything else? Finally, before I let you go, that you'd like to, punctuate about the life lessons of Ellen Kuzwaya?
Yeah, I think as I've mentioned, she's someone that was very driven, determined, selfless in serving others. Someone that also valued identity. In the books that she wrote, she speaks about women, she speaks about young people. And as I think when I look at the profession of social work, we become disheartened because we're not getting jobs. We're not where we would like to be. And we can truly reflect on the work that she did and think, where can I lend a hand in my community? What can I offer that someone else does not have? And so I really think being selfless, and also just going back to the strengths that women have, is something to really be, highlighted.
Good point. Yeah. Well, that's where we can leave it. Thank you for setting up for us. And I think you've certainly created an awareness, even more so than before, around Ellen Kuzwai. So thank you for that. Sipokazi Shezi was a private medical social worker on the line. By the way, you have any thoughts on Ellen Kuzwai? You can drop us a WhatsApp voice note 0614 104 107 or call in 086 000 2032. There's an interesting call, rather message from Felix in the West Rand saying, "Welcome back, Ashraf, on Al Jazeera. I wonder why there was a conspiracy of silence when Russian TV was muzzled here and in the West." Felix, you are right about that. Okay, let's get to something more local, but sadly a horrific story. You know, that bus accident that took place in relation to what's happened over the Easter weekend, right? Where just about everybody besides an 8-year-old child survived. With me is the Minister of Health, Dr. Joe Patla. Appreciate your time, Dr. Patla, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Welcome back to SAFM.
Much appreciated, and looking forward to further engagements with you, right, over the months. Of course, today we're talking, and it's not celebratory. You, I understand, visited the site where all these people died, minus the one 8-year-old died in Limpopo. I mean, what a horrific story.
It's a very, very sad story. Very, very sad story indeed. At the time when families, getting together, religious groups, Christians, and knowing also that this is also the period of Ramadan. So these are the times when really, not just families, but various religious groups are getting together. And thirdly, these are people who are clearly very dedicated to their church, traveling all the way from Gaborone to Moria in Polokwane. And thirdly, lost their lives, and only one 8-year-old survived. So we were there to give support, to work with the province and also our partners in other departments, social workers, police, in terms of just trying to assist to bring closure to the families of the deceased, and also just making sure that the child is okay and the mother was there, and that the child will be ready to can go home.
And I mean, the point about giving support is understandable, but I mean, here's a question: yourself as the Minister of Health, and certainly somebody who understands the medical space, right? What support do you give them when you meet the families? What do you do in your position as the Minister of Health?
Well, in this particular situation, because the families are not in South Africa. So the biggest contribution we can make, and which was really for me to assess if there's anything we can do to speed up, is really to help the families to have closure. And we know that when the family member passes away, the only form of closure is when there can be identity in this kind of situation of the remains, and then the burial, and then people can have a formal mourning period, and then slowly come to terms and have closure. Now, what is the tragic in this circumstance, because the bus crashed and then caught fire, is the fact that we are able to have closure for only few, as we sort of reported earlier on. Only 6 bodies have been positively identified. 2 more are waiting just some further, possibly fingerprints and other forms of physical identification, and maybe just in terms of the fingerprint part. But the rest are going to be painstaking DNA confirmation. So we're just getting to see what further can we do to speed up, because families, what we can help them is to have closure to the loss of their loved ones. So that's really the main thing which we're trying to put our heads together to see how we can contribute.
And I'm trying to think. I mean, I understand. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That these are citizens of another country, or Botswana, right? So in that case, the type of support that you offer the families, right? Would that differ from the type of support you would offer South African citizens or residents of this country?
Definitely, because except for the mother of the child who was not, because the child, the 8-year-old, was with a grandmother who also succumbed to this in this accident. So here we're giving support.
The mother has now come to South Africa, so she's getting support from our social workers, our psychologists, counseling. She's much better now, psychologically, slowly accepting, because she lost her mother, the grandmother to the child, and many other people from the neighborhood who were part of those who perished in this accident. But the rest of the families of the other 45 people are in Botswana, so we are communicating through the embassy with the government of Botswana and giving them feedback so that they are then able to make all the counseling and social support possible for the families out there in Gaborone.
So forgive my naivety on this one. I mean, but does financial compensation also form part of your support to the families of the victims?
Well, not direct financial support. Our support currently, as I say, is to put as much resources in terms of the know-how, the specialists who can speed up the identification and then finally repatriation. But I know that through the Minister of Transport, there is some discussion between our road accident fund and the equivalent in Botswana. So I've learned through, the Minister of Transport that there are those kind of discussions to see, how the two authorities are going to work together. Because the accident happened in South Africa.
Yeah. You're not the minister.
So those details I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Understandably so. You're not the Minister of Transport. I understand that. You're the Minister of Health. But here's a case of unhealthy driving, and I'm not casting a dispersion to this driver, but we have a huge problem around the high accident rate in our country. So unhealthy driving, unhealthy roads has an impact on unhealthy people in terms of their lives. What do you then pick up from what happened with regard to this accident, and what can we do to limit these road deaths that are prevalent not just over Christmas and Easter, but in our country it is rampant, and you know that.
Well, true. Specifically with this one, because the police are also part of the team, the multidisciplinary team. They're looking over and above the issue of the victim identification, which also falls under police forensics, working with our pathologists. But they are also working on the issue of what actually happened, because in their case, this is unnatural deaths, which must then be investigated. So they're busy with that, trying to piece up what actually has happened. But overall, I agree with you that as a country, we're really notorious in terms of horrible driving, reckless, drunken driving, and all those, which cost a lot of lives unnecessarily. Yeah. Many of them young people with families.
And therefore, and very quickly, we've got 30 seconds left. Therefore, is there a chance possibly that your ministry can have closer conversations with the road transport and ensure there's greater interventions, because the one clearly has an impact on the other? It's a domino effect.
Definitely. There were some discussions some time ago, which I'm sure needs to be resuscitated. There was some talk in one of our committee meetings that the issues about, especially restrictions, more restrictions in terms of the easy availability of alcohol and enforcement of the even existing laws and regulations. We need to find ways to tighten that up.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it. I'll tell you what, when you finally reach an agreement in terms of what you can do going forward, your interventions from the Ministry of Health side to transport, then please let us know, because the country absolutely wants to know. Right now, our pulses are really racing for the wrong reasons when it comes to road deaths. I appreciate your time, Dr. Joe Patla, the Minister from the Ministry of Health, of course, referring to that horrific incident with over 40 people dying, just one survivor in Limpopo over the weekend. It's a fast-moving day with lots of things happening. Let's get the latest news with Ann Musa.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. With the news, good afternoon. The top stories: the petrol price goes up at midnight and dozens killed in a nightclub fire in Istanbul. Motorists will have to dig deeper into their pockets from midnight tonight as fuel prices increase. 93-octane petrol will increase by 65 cents per litre, while 95-octane goes up by 67 cents per litre. Diesel goes up by around 3 cents a litre. It's the third consecutive month of fuel price increases this year. Economist Yanni Rousseau.
It's a severe blow to consumers. It's of course negative for efforts to keep inflation under control. The international price of oil is not something South Africa or its government can do anything about, but we can affect the exchange rate of the rand. And amongst others, if we have sound economic policy in South Africa, if we attract a lot of investment to South Africa, the exchange rate of the rand vis-à-vis the dollar will improve. And with a better exchange rate of the rand, there will be room for the fuel price to come down.
A 17-year-old girl has been raped by two men at Matombidza village outside Tohoyando in Limpopo. Police say the teen had gone to a local liquor outlet looking for her friend. Police spokesperson Malesela Ledwaba.
The victim went out to look for her friend at the local liquor outlet when she was approached by 4 unknown males. 2 of the individuals left and she remained with the other 2 suspects who allegedly threatened and raped her.
The Kathu Regional Court in the Northern Cape has sentenced a 27-year-old man to 15 years imprisonment for the rape of a 24-year-old woman in 2021. The woman was attacked in her home by Piet Olin and his accomplice. Both men raped the woman. Olin's accomplice passed away before the court matter was concluded. Police spokesperson Timothy Sam.
The court heard that the victim was sleeping in her room when she felt someone who was on top of her and noticed that it was Piet Olin who was busy raping her. She pushed him away and saw that there was another person known to her in the room, telling the accused that he's done with his turn whilst zipping his trouser. Both suspects were arrested and charged with the alleged rape of the victim, and the accused accomplice unfortunately passed away before the finalization of the court case.
The spokesperson for the National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says discussions will be held with the NPA regarding handing herself over to the Littleton police station in Pretoria. Mike Ramachoma says the urgent interdict application launched by the Speaker was only to ensure that she presents herself with her legal representative, who was busy with a different matter in the KZN division of the High Court. This follows corruption allegations leveled against the Speaker by a defense contractor over incidents that allegedly occurred during her tenure as a defense minister. Ramachoma spoke to our news desk after the High Court in Pretoria dismissed the Speaker's urgent application, asking the court to prevent the state from arresting her.
If she has to be called in either through a summons or to come to a court or a police station, she needs to be able to do that when a lawyer is available, and the date that we had put that the attorney will be available was the 3rd of April, which is tomorrow. And so in a way, we were able to ensure that she is, if she is required, she goes there with a lawyer, and the lawyer will be available from tomorrow. Anytime from there, we can arrange such an appearance. There will be discussions with the NPA in terms of what is the next move now, and those matters will be decided there.
And at least 29 people have been killed in a fire in a nightclub in Istanbul, Turkey. The club in the basement of a high-rise building was closed and was undergoing renovations during the day. Istanbul Governor Davut Gül says the cause of the fire is not yet clear. He says the victims of the fire were employees, but it is not yet clear whether they were contractors or employees of the nightclub. Recapping the top story at 5, motorists will have to dig deeper into their pockets from midnight tonight as fuel prices increase. For SAFM News, Gemudupi Makhalemele.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Comrades Marathon Association confirm cut-off time for this year's race. Sundowns return to PSL action against Richards Bay, and Boxing South Africa promoters and Godwa find common ground. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, here's one not to underestimate. The N1 south through Midrand. If you're coming out of Pretoria, you might want to give yourself plenty of time or travel later perhaps to get through. 2 crashes, one at New Road and one at Buccleuch. It's a heavy backlog from as far back as Olifantsfontein. That's a massive queue. If you're leaving Pretoria en route to Joburg, that N1 backed and stacked forever today. Also, roadworks on the R21 south causing delays approaching Clayville and some more roadwork delays as you approach the Atlas Road exit. Give yourself plenty of time to get out of Pretoria to hit those flight connections. The Bike 1 from Parktown through to Sandton Drive up to Grayston Drive remains heavily congested. And a bit of traffic on the N12 just leaving the N3 at Elands, moving slowly through towards the Reading interchange area. Durban's Rossborough has been very busy today. There's queues on the M7 leaving Rossborough out towards Bel Air. There's queues towards the Bluff through the Rossborough area down towards sort of Flower and Recreation Road territory. Pinetown looks busy. Umgeni Road outbound through Springfield Park looks slow, and a lot of backlogging on the Commercial Highway and Chris Harney at the N2. There might be some traffic light problems out there today. It's got that sort of feel to it. Cape Town, a crash at Constantia. It's on the M3 going south near Kendall Road, so that's quite a backlog. And the Four-Trekker Road run through Maitland stays busy on your way slowly through the area direction Kensington. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Yes, I know it's a different voice on a different name of a different channel called the National Pulse, but it's certainly the same station. It's SAFM. And my name is Ashraf Garda. As you know, that Alden St-Pierre had his goodbyes over the last week, in fact. And he's moved on. And really, I listened in and I just loved the fact that he was so connected to you as the audience. And if there's just one thing, well, there's two things. One, from my side, on day one is to do my job of asking the questions that truly matter for you, the audience, because I'm your representative, number one. Number two, to have that level of engagement. So we're part of this great tribe that all belongs to, in this case here, the National Pulse, which is part of the SAFM radio show. And to do that, I welcome your engagement all the time. You can call in 086 000 2032, WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. You can use X, you can tweet it out. So use and tag SAFM Radio, use the hashtag The National Pulse, and you can also tag me, Ashraf Garda. Welcome that indeed. And well, thanks for holding my hand. You know, there's been many people who have messaged, people have tweeted me. I appreciate that. People have called in, people have voice noted, and I really appreciate the support. It's let me get this straight. It is never easy for you as the listener to suddenly hear a different voice. It never is, because one thing about radio, and I told this to Stephen Quarters this morning when I was interviewed on the morning show, that TV is very visual. You know, what do you look like and what do you see? And radio is what you feel. And I have no doubt that all of you have felt so much with Alden over the last 3 years, right? So suddenly there's Ashraf on board, and I must understand this, that there's suddenly this disconnect, like things are not the same. The reality is, Alden is gone, and the reality is I'm here, and in my responsibility on behalf of SAFM is to give up the very best that I can do to the audience, to you, to my country, to South Africa, to SAFM Radio, and to everybody that are stakeholders on the station, in the channel. And I'm certainly going to try my absolute best to do that. So hopefully that you connect with me and engage with me in the same way that you've done with Aaron, in different ways, with different people, different styles. Okay, let's say that. And connect, I'll tell you what, I've asked people, and I'll do this again to you, if you are to send pictures right now of wherever you may be in the country. There's been one in Alberton. I haven't seen one from Joburg. Where are you? Peter Marisburg, I don't see it. Wherever you may be in the country, take a picture of you where you are now listening. You could be at home, in an office. You could be in your car. Ideally with the SAFM dial showing, and you can WhatsApp it to 0614 104 107, but also tweet it out too, okay? We'll see it. We're going to share it. I'm going to check it out just now. I think there's some fabulous pictures, which just gives me a great picture of who I'm talking to. So the one, and I say it's about visuals and or feeling and not visuals, but in this case, the visuals help me feel. So I really appreciate it. The last thing for now, the show is called The National Pulse. Why? All we're going to do every day for 3 hours is deliver the type of content that we think is a reflection of the pulse of the nation. And therefore, when I speak to you, I often may ask you the question, what's your pulse like? Which is basically, how do you connect with what's going on in South Africa? I can tell you what, talking about that, the pulse of the nation is rather heavy and high with the issue of the petrol price hike. I mean, I've got family groups. My wife, I see, has messaged me to say, don't forget tonight, midnight, petrol prices going up once again. When will this end? I could copy and paste this like 20 times in the last few years, and it just seems to be the same. Robert Marque is with me. He's the Director of Fuel Pricing in the Department of Minerals and Resources. Robert, appreciate your time and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and congratulations for your new slot, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. I wish I have the power to bring the petrol price down as my opening day contribution as a host, but I can't, right?
Sorry for that, Ashraf. It's outside your control.
Well, I must stay in my lane. But tell me about this. So tonight, midnight, what are the increases like? They're hefty, I see.
Yes, Ashraf. The one that you see on the media statement, we actually showed you the prices for Gauteng and for the coastal areas. And the reason we did that is because every year in April, we adjust the transport cost of delivering fuel to the 54 different zones in South Africa. So the increases in each zone will be different.
Okay, but more or less, I mean, that's we're talking about ballpark figures, 93 unleaded petrol, maybe a cent or two slightly less than 65 cents, 95 unleaded by 67 cents going up, right? Got that. Help us explain. I mean, so I understand, there's two parts. One is the reason for the fluctuation of prices. But the second part, and this is the part that concerns the consumer, they're actually not even interested in the reasons. They simply can't afford it. Now, how do we cushion this regular blow?
Yes, the main reason, Ashraf, for this fuel price adjustment, the first one is the higher oil prices. We saw mid-March that when the Russian refineries were attacked by the drone, the price of oil actually jumped from $81 per barrel to over $84 per barrel, and it stayed there for the remainder of the month. That actually led to the spike in the prices of fuel in the international market. The second one is the slate levy that is implemented in line with the self-adjusting slate mechanism rules. It's 21.92 cents per litre in both petrol and diesel. The one we spoke about is the annual adjustment to the transport cost, which is based on the pipeline tariff as decided by NERSA, energy regulator, and also the Road Freight Association will give us the transport cost for the trucks that are delivering fuel. So that's a once-off adjustment every year in April. So that will actually result in an increase of 0.3 to 14.2 cents per litre, depending on the zone where you are. Everything else will be in between. And the last one is that the stronger rand actually pushing the prices by over 10 cents a litre on all products.
Oh, goodness. Otherwise, it would even be more, right? I understand your point about what's happened in Russia and that ongoing issue with the Ukrainians, and and it has an impact on us, right? But in this case here, God forbid it happens that the Middle Eastern crisis pulls up into something even bigger because it has an impact. But here's the question: is there any way we can truly cushion it?
Yeah, in as far as the fluctuations are concerned, Ashraf, what other countries are doing, that's what we're also looking at, is to look at what do they call stabilization fund. Establish a fund, and when the prices go down, because they do go down, if they go down by a certain amount, say over R1, we can then take a percentage of that amount, put it in a fund. And when it goes up by more than R1, then you can still use the same money from the fund to cushion the prices. Because let's face it, there's no money that will come from government. Government does not have money to cushion prices. In countries where they have a lot of oil and so on, they use the money, the revenue from oil, to actually subsidize the prices, like in Nigeria and so on. But we don't have the luxury of having those resources. So the only way that we can do is to come back to the consumers once we have a proposal to say, if you agree, Ashraf, that when you're supposed to get R1.50 decrease on fuel price, you can only get R100, and the R50 is put on the fund, in a fund for rainy days. If the South African agree with that proposal, then we can then think about implementing something along those lines.
That's a South African taxpayer that's reeling, as you know, consumers absolutely reeling. There's a question from one of the, a member of the audience, one of our listeners, and let me pick up because I think it's a really important one.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Can you please ask your guest, why do we in South Africa have to pay so much for petrol while we distribute petrol to Namibia, Lesotho, and Botswana? Why must we pay such high prices?
Okay,
this comes from Terence.
All right, thanks for that. Your answer to that?
Yes, Ashraf, it's actually Botswana, Swaziland, and Lesotho, because now Namibia is actually importing directly through Walvis Bay. We are supplying them. But remember, Ashraf, in South Africa, we have the fuel levy and the road accident fund as part of our pump price. And these two items account for around R6. When Botswana, for example, buy petrol from South Africa, they buy it at the import price plus transport to their border. When it gets into Botswana, that's when they introduce their own local elements, their own levies, which are not similar to ours. That is why their price is much, much lower than us, because they don't have the magnitude of the fuel levy that we have. Of course, they don't have the road accident fund. Whatever they have, the road transport levy is much, much lower than what we have in their price structure. So the main difference, Ashraf, is that they don't buy at the pump price like me and you. Because they're buying in bulk, they buy at the import price, which is the basic fuel price, and then they include the transport cost to their border. And then once you get to Botswana, then they have their own local element.
They basically wholesale. They're buying wholesale, and therefore they get a discounted price. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Just I'm going to let you go, but is there anything you can tell us in 30 seconds maximum, so that you can give us some hope? Not just for today, but I'm talking of like on an annualized basis, some hope about maybe rethinking the whole process here.
Yeah, Ashraf, the only hope I can give is that at some point in 2022, the prices were actually going to over 26 rand a litre in Gauteng, and we are not at that level. And hopefully will remain lower than that level of 26.
Well, there you are. Suddenly,
but the oil prices is stabilizing at around 85, and we hope that with the refineries in Russia, then it can stabilize. But the rand, we have seen the rand starting to do better.
Okay.
So hopefully next month we can have good news.
Well, the 2023 example, suddenly the glass is half full, not half empty. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Robert Marke, Director of Fuel Pricing in the Department of Minerals and Resources. I'll tell you what, there's maybe even more so now, the issue of innovation is so important. We're gonna pick up on the issues of innovation as much as we can on the show, besides current affairs issues, because we believe that innovation is the one thing that will drive South Africa to be able to become the champion nation that I talk about. That means we must be able to have a USP that is absolutely top notch. There's some fascinating pictures, by the way, I've been receiving. Nikiwe sent one in Mangaung, a really great pic, and there's let me see, there's one that somebody sent one from the swimming pool. I need to find. I think it's Vincent in Queenswood in Pretoria is stuck in traffic. Okay, but thanks for listening while you're doing just that. Anyway, right. Talking about innovation, we'll pick up on a fascinating issue around stream text to video use that I must confess I know nothing about, but I will know about it after this.
Are you a small business or cooperative looking for a business loan under R1 million? SEFA can assist through the Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program. TREP provides blended finance to various sectors, facilitating participation in the economy. SEFA services are free and don't make use of private consultants. Visit sefa.org.za. SEFA is a registered credit provider. Terms and conditions apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, so I made the point about innovation and something that we want to drive on the show as much as we can. In fact, Temba was telling me that, in fact, we're going to chat to Tebe Kalafeng tomorrow. And he's a brand guru of notes. So don't forget that sometime tomorrow we're going to talk to him. Looking forward to that conversation, right? Keep the WhatsApps coming. Keep the pictures coming wherever you may be in the country with your dial locked onto SAFM. Really would appreciate it. Keep the voice notes going as well. And different things. And maybe we'll get a chance to take your calls to 086 000 2032. So let's get into the Innovation Hub now. Here's an interesting I picked up. A local strategic technology development company called Bonafel AI. AI would mean or Bonafella AI. That is in artificial intelligence. Well, they've designed and built a brand new AI-driven tool called Stream Text to Video Use. So let me repeat that last part because that's important. That's what's got me. Stream text, as in text that you'll see, to video use. What does that mean? Let's find out. Jerry Majila is the CEO of Bonafella. Jerry, appreciate your time. Are you going to solve a problem that will thrill me and thrill everybody in the country and get our pulses racing?
Thank you for having me on your show.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. Bonafella AI is a South African company which was established last year at the end of August. What we do is that we transform text into video, a professional video, within minutes or even seconds.
So let me interject you. I mean, text would be words as we know it. Okay, so I'm reading a piece of reading a document now. It's in text form. It's not pictures. It's nothing. And if I give it to you, you will do what with it?
Yes. If you give me text, I can make you talk as if you are in a TV show or a presenter, reading the very same text to people.
And there am I out of a job? And I'm out of a job already. But wait, I'm out of a job already. Then you can give someone else to do that. So you would use artificial intelligence. Take the text, so let's call it a news bulletin, just for example, and you would do what?
With a news bulletin, then with that text, we make it a video.
Okay.
And on top of that, you can speak with the person who is really presenting that content. You can stop and say, whoa, I don't understand you. What did you say Zuma did? Just explain that to me. Then that person will stop and say that again. He's an AI-generated person resembling you.
Okay. I really am out of a job. My goodness. Okay. So, but that is fascinating. And I mean, tell me more about the technology that's gone into it.
Wow, there are quite a number of technologies that are in there. One of them is ability to clone your voice in 7 seconds. And the other one is what we call face reenactment. In other words, I watch you or AI watches you the way you move and it tries to mimic you in whatever way you move. And it becomes as you. The way you speak, the way you pause, the way you look around, it will do exactly like you do. Even the way you laugh.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of, I mean, the AI or artificial intelligence that you provide, are you the only company in South Africa to do this? Are you the only one in the world? Or in fact, has it been done in other parts of the world already?
No, I'm not the only one doing this. What I do is that I look into open research papers of AI. We call them state of the art. The most recent one, you'll hear someone, an author, saying, I made a breakthrough on these papers. Mm-hmm. And what I do, I read the paper, and in some cases, the authors themselves, they provide you the code as to how to reproduce them. However, these are scientists. They just focus on a particular specific part. Maybe they focus on the way you look, the way your eyes move, and the other one maybe just focuses on the voice. So what I do, I take all these little pieces of advancement and I put it together into something that can be used by the masses of the people. I'm an engineer, not a scientist. So it's what scientists have discovered, basically.
Now, why would this be important? I mean, so again, a member of the audience listening, and I'm looking at Mokwena in the Vaal. Of course, he's listening from a swimming pool because I've got his picture to confirm that. He's listening like, why would it matter to him? How can he use what you've got?
Okay. Now, this is a very interesting part because let me first go back to what you said. You said, oh, whoa, I might be losing a job. But that's not the case. Actually, I'm creating lots of jobs, plenty of them. The first one is that when you look into newspapers, currently it's just text or audio. But what if a newspaper becomes a TV? That's what I do. I turn newspaper into a TV. I turn a textbook of education into an interactive one, where now a student can have a 24/7 teacher right there. And moreover, let's talk about that very same person who's sitting at home, who never went to school. They just have great jokes. Therefore, I can take his voice and really make a video, a fully fledged video, whether you call it documentary or comedy, where now there's someone there moving and doing everything what that guy has just imagined.
Okay, so here's the most important question of all, okay? Besides those that find the gadgets are all cute and fancy and exciting, right? So can this create jobs? Meaning a person listening now, and you've touched on that you will create. So a person listening, and you know, I mean, we have millions of people in our country unemployed. Are they able to create employment for themselves without getting into a mainstream company? That means, are they able to do it on their own and derive revenue from this?
Yes, absolutely. Video is the main stream of content on the internet. Now, creating a professional video, obviously, it takes time and it takes a lot of money. With this AI tool that I have developed, it becomes much, much easier. You pay close to nothing, and you have something which is professionally created.
And then can they make money from it, from the video? How do they make money?
From that video, they can make. It is up to their own imagination. They can go to social media. They can tell wonderful stories, stories that we have never heard of. They can also resurrect our languages which are dying. For instance, if you speak indigenous language, you can make it to be well alive and be fascinating.
Well, the indigenous language one has come off the page for me. Absolutely. I think somebody needs to contact you. Right. How can we get hold of you very quickly? I mean, in terms of website or app, where can they find you?
Okay. My website is bonafela.co.za. Bonafela is spelled as BONEFELA.
Got that.
And then my number, it is 083-620-3912.
Okay, got that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to check out your website. Believe me, I'm certainly going to do that and use it for my social media pages and see what happens. Appreciate your time. That's really fascinating, Jerry Majila, the CEO of Bonafela. We'll do a lot more around innovation right throughout these shows here as we're trying to grapple with the national needs around current affairs, but very importantly around personal needs about how you can make your life a lot better. And therefore, it's all about understanding the national pulse. We'll talk to Sabina Chetty, the spokesperson for the Alliance in African Democratic Change, speaking on behalf of Visvin Naidoo. Remember that story about he being charged? We're going to get to that just now. But let's get to the news headlines now. It's 5:30. Here's Madupi.
Thanks, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. In your headlines, 10 political parties represented in Parliament have petitioned President Cyril Ramaphosa not to sign the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill into law. Motorists will have to dig deeper into their pockets from midnight tonight as fuel prices increase. And SARS has emphasized that various tax compliance measures were invoked to collect revenue from non-compliant taxpayers in the 2023-24 financial year. Details of these and other stories coming up at 6.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Still very heavy through the Midrand area. An earlier crash at Buccleuch interchange on the M1 South is being cleared, but they're still busy with another collision just around New Road. So coming through from Samrand all the way down past New Road and down towards Buccleuch remains heavily backed up. That's on the southbound. The northbound fairly heavy as well between Buccleuch and Olifantsfontein Road. The Mike 1 coming away from Parktown up towards Grayston Drive in the Santon area stays heavily backed up. There are some police on the scene of that Mike 1. And if you're heading down towards the airport, a reminder there are 2 queues to work through coming out of Pretoria. Roadworks on the R21 before Olifantsfontein Road, and then another set of roadworks before the R23 Benoni exit. Both of those queues are reasonably heavy today. Durban, a lot of pressure on the N3 outbound, queuing up from Spaghetti Junction all the way through the roadworks towards Paradise Valley and the split to Pinetown. There's also a really big lot of congestion around Komashu Highway and Chris Hani Road at the end turn. Because that bridge system's so busy, the N2 North is queuing up to get off of that Komashu exit. Cape Town, a crash at Constantia on the M3 going south near Kendall Road. That's a big queue from Wynberg Hill and very heavy into Mitchell's Plain, with traffic sitting on the R300 from Delft down towards the Stock Road exits. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
I think Tumi's got boxing and a whole lot of other things and Sundowns in sport.
Absolutely. Well, this time around, we start things off with athletics, where the Comrades Association Marathon has confirmed the cutoff times for this year's 97th Comrades Marathon. And with this year's being an up run, there's a 5-minute increase in the first cutoff, meaning that athletes will have 2 hours and 45 minutes to complete the first 18.67 kilometers. All the other cutoffs are unchanged from 2017 to 2019. And if you didn't know, those running the Comrades Marathon will need to have reached the finish line before the 12-hour cutoff. And if you are not there, you are forced to retire from the race and you won't receive your medal. And yes, they won't allow you to finish the race. You need to retire.
I'm not going to run. I'm not even going to try. But okay, carry on.
You need to retire because if you're forced to finish off that race, it will affect your entries for the next races. Meanwhile, in boxing, the legal standoff between the National Professional Boxing Promoters Association and the Minister of Sports, Zizi Godwa, and Boxing South Africa took another twist today as the two parties started a process towards finding an amicable solution. Today was said to be the court hearing at the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria for the matters the promoters had brought to court, challenging the processes that led to the appointment of the latest Boxing South Africa board. But the matter was stood down until next week to allow the two parties to find each other and resolve this matter amicably.
We just concluded a very constructive, what I call preliminary meeting with promoters. And I think we agreed that we'll meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Firstly, to agree that the matter in court now, it must stand down to allow us to engage. And I think both sides agree that the matter will stand down, and as a matter of the consequence of our engagement, it will come back by the resolution of the court in terms of what we agreed to. Obviously, we will do all of this in the interest of boxing, because we don't think all of us we can fail to find a settlement or a resolution on the matters in dispute.
Well, there's one DStv Premiership clash to look forward to today, and it's Mamelodi Sundowns who are looking to solidify their spot at the top of the log when they face a struggling Richards Bay side tonight. The Natal Rich Boys are currently 15th in the league table and will be looking to collect the maximum of 3 points to pull them out of the relegation zone. So the big question is, will they be able to cause an upset today? But I don't see that happening. They've only collected a total of 14 points in 21 matches this season, while the Brazilians have collected an impressive 46 points, and they go up to 49 in 19 games if they win. Meanwhile, Cape Town Spurs are still waiting to hear from the Premier Soccer League regarding the complaints about the status of Morocco Swallows players. The Urban Warriors played their clash against the Dube Birds yesterday under protest. Now, Spurs are protesting that Swallows players are not registered or improperly registered following the club's decision to deregister all their players following their strike in December. The team had until end of business day today to lodge a fully written protest with the league and pay a fee of 20,000 rands. Then some good news for Arsenal fans. Bukayo Saka took part in full training today. He limped off or out of the game against City this weekend, and this is a player who struggled with a muscular injury, so he might just be playing tomorrow. And still staying with Arsenal, the manager Mikel Arteta says that the Gunners now will need to win the remaining 9 matches to be crowned champions of the Premier League. The second place Gunners are 2 points behind Liverpool ahead of a busy April schedule following Sunday's gritty goalless draw against Manchester City. And Arteta has urged his side to embrace the challenge, starting with tomorrow's game at home to relegation-threatened Luton. Anything's off with tennis. Former US Open champion Dominic Thiem says that he hopes his approach of cutting down the intensity of his training will help prevent a recurring wrist injury. The 30-year-old has struggled to get back to top form after suffering a wrist injury in 2021, and it sidelined him for months and saw him slip down the rankings. The two-time French Open finalist claimed his first win on the ATP Tour in 2024 yesterday, and he next faces Richard Gasquet tomorrow as he keeps hopes of reclaiming his glory days alive. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport,
Ask you a pedal question. Because we don't have a tennis champion in the country. We know that. Like, I'm waiting for a South African tennis champion. But well, yeah. Do you play pedal? Fastest growing sport in the world.
Pedal?
Pedal.
No.
Pedal tennis.
Pedal tennis?
That's the official name. It's a sport that started about 30 years ago in Mexico, I understand, grew to Latin American countries and then across to Spain and Portugal, where it's the biggest is in Spain. And it hit South Africa 3 years ago, but only took off. Tipping point, I would say, about a year now. It's a combination of, in simple terms, squash and tennis. So you can play like you're playing tennis off the back wall. You can hit off the back wall and side walls, unlike tennis. And you serve low, so you don't serve overhead. And it's the fastest growing sport in the world. And it's the fastest growing sport in South Africa. And I play paddle, and you don't. You need to play paddle. Check it out. Anybody playing paddle, by the way? The first one was set up in Camps Bay, I know that. Anybody played paddle? Let me know. You can WhatsApp 0614-104-107 or take a picture of you at the paddle courts. Otherwise, call in 086 000 2032. Thanks. We'll get you on tomorrow. Okay, there we are. Right. We're going to, in a moment, we're going to talk about a very important issue around a conversation we should have had with Visbin Reddy. But tell you what, before that, there's a couple of WhatsApps that we've got. In fact, talking about the markets, that's very important. We touched on something earlier on. So, the show comes up at 6 o'clock, and we've got Jimmy Moyaha. We're going to talk. In fact, we're going to talk to him now because he's going to tease ahead to that, and we'll do that in a moment.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, now we can go. Finally, for the first time, let's bring in Jimmy Moyaha.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Welcome. Welcome back, actually. Can't say
Thank
welcome.
You.
I mean, you're welcome back. How's the adjustment been?
Well, I've introduced you, and I think it's a good link, so it's fine. And I can tell you now that I listen to your show most evenings when I get a chance, which is quite often, and I find it very, very informative. And that should give every other listener to this show a reason to stick around after 6 o'clock. So hopefully I've done what I think I should be doing and making buddies with you on the air.
I think you've done a stellar job. And for those that are still not convinced, maybe perhaps if we go through the lineup for today's show, they might be. We're chatting to the Commissioner of SARS, Edward Kieswetter, around the SARS preliminary revenue numbers that they gave out today. They put out a presentation around midday today citing how much was collected, where it came from, what their collection efforts and compliance efforts look like. And we're going to just get a sense of all of that information from the Commissioner himself. And then we've got a conversation with independent energy analyst Chris Yelland around those Eskom tariff hikes. Can't seem to understand for the life of me why we keep paying more to get less electricity, but that is the country we live in, and that is the reality that we have to contend with for the moment. So we're going to try and unpack those tariff hikes, see how we make sense of them, and when they will end, if they will. We've got a conversation with Bell Equipment around their financial year-end numbers. Financial year ended 31 December 2023, and we're going to speak to the company's group CEO Ashley Bell around those numbers and the performance there. There's some interesting numbers there. They've elected to not pay out a dividend this time around, and we're going to find out why. And then we've got a conversation with Calgro M3. They've embarked on an interesting development, and it lines up with our Property Tuesday segment. They're embarking on a housing development in a new district city that they intend on building that will house approximately 20 to 30,000 individuals, or 20 to 30,000 homes will be built. We're going to speak to Calgro M3 around those plans there and what approvals they've gotten from that perspective. But before we get to that, the markets have been moving rather torridly for a Tuesday, with the Rand showing some signs of strength, but we see that some of the equity markets haven't been doing so well. And keeping an eye on that for us has been our market watcher, Henku Krier, who's been looking at the markets throughout the day, and he joins me now to just quickly wrap up those movements. Good afternoon, Henku. Thanks, as always, for keeping an eye on the markets. Bitcoin can't come back. It's back at $65,000 an ounce. There seems as though we've come off from those $72,000 highs.
Hello, Jimmy. Yes, it seems like that. Good evening to you, Jimmy, as well as to Ashraf and to me, and good evening to all the listeners. Yes, so that's the state of Bitcoin, but I must say that the US markets overall has just had a torrid and a terrible day so far. It's still early for them, so it's still a long day ahead of trading left, so we'll see where it ends. But it's red in the US markets. European stocks finished in the red, the JSE as well, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 currently trading 1% weaker, and then the Nasdaq losing 1.5%, and then those European stocks, the FTSE 100 lost 0.2%, followed by the DAX and the CAC 40, which each finished 1% weaker. And then most of the day, the JSE didn't know whether it wanted to go up or down, and then unfortunately, right at the end, decided that it'll finish in the red, like the rest of the world. And it lost 0.1% today and finished at a lower level of 74,429 points. Then the industrial index finished 0.6% weaker, the financial index 0.9% down, but the resources index tried very hard to make up for all of these losses by gaining 2% today. Anglo helped towards this. Anglo finished 3% stronger, and BHP, which gained 1.5%. But then again, on the losing side of things, AB InBev and British American Tobacco each finished 1.5% weaker, and Richmond, a big one, which lost 3% today. Other companies on the losing end today were Alphaman and Bytes. They each lost 6%. Then Resilient and Hyprop finished 3.5% weaker, and Nedbank and Mondi each 2.5% down at the end of the day. But the winning companies were your mining companies like Kumba, which gained 5.5%. Tungela finished 4.7% stronger. Implats and Northam each 4% stronger. And Sibanye, Stillwater and Exxaro each finished today 2.8% stronger at the end of the day. On the commodities market, the price of gold still sky high, now sitting at $2,260 an ounce. Silver is trading at $25.70. Platinum $925 an ounce, and palladium now trading at $1,005. The price of Brent crude also, unfortunately, very high, now sitting at $88.51 a barrel, and the rand looking a little bit up, not too bad, now sitting at 18 rand 17.7 to the US dollar, 23 rand 60 to the pound, 20 rand and 23 cents to the euro, and 12 rand 24 to the Australian dollar. And then back to that Bitcoin, which we started off with, now trading at $65,800, and that is 1.3 million rand. Jimmy, that's how the markets performed today.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. We're going to dig into some of these stories a little later on. I noted that Calgro was up about 3%, and we're speaking to them as well, and Bell was down 3%. So interesting that some of the movements throughout the day had such a good impact on the markets, especially if we look at the likes of Sasol that have been under pressure. But we'll dig into these stories when we come back in a little bit. For now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Of course, it's day one for me hosting this show, and as you know, Alden's gone. The show has been renamed, and it's now called the National Pulse. And my name's Ashraf Garda, and I hope you're enjoying what you're listening to so far. And your feedback is most welcome. You can WhatsApp 0614 104 107. You can also call in 080 000 2032, and you can tweet it out, to X, right? Tag SFM Radio, tag me, Ashraf Garda, use the hashtag the National Pulse. And here's an interesting one. You never know who you connect with when you're on air time. So Tafara saying, welcome back, Ashraf. I'm so glad you're Aaron's replacement. I once met you with your family in a local mall and spoke to you briefly about my innovation train idea. And I know you're interested in innovation. Well, you're right about that. And you're a good family man with good values, which are so needed in this country. I look forward to your hard-hitting coverage of current affairs, sport, of which I know you're a fan, and a wide range of other informative educational issues, which I know you're competent in, as you've proved before. Thanks from Tafara. Lovely and nice. Really appreciate that message. There's a couple of more. There's a few others sending out pictures as well, and there's another one from KZN. Welcome back, Mr. Ashraf Garda. SFM never fails to find the best presenters. That's so kind of you. It's over a decade, and I'm still around. A lot of things get to my pulse. Okay, I like the word that you're using, the word pulse, right? The ineffective, mediocre opportunities that often do not change the future of South Africa and a black child. Tenders, Mr. Garda, are working for a few. Our leaders have bottomless pits, if I got that right. Dreaming and exposing yourself to information is useless in this country. Young people remain the same and die breathing with countless ideas that cannot flourish because you don't have the right network. Look forward to the show. Well, I'll tell you what, you said some things that are sober and damning and frightening all at the same time. And perhaps, we've got this feature that we want to have, where a listener may come up with something they truly want to get off their chest because their pulses are racing. And maybe we'll talk to you about what you just said sometime soon. We will talk to the representative for Visvin Reddy, who's been charged with inciting violence after this.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion. It's for Ikoko, who steady chill on neutral on a downhill just to save fuel. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 35 Rand from Hatfield to Centurion Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Right, so attention filmmakers, this is like for you, okay? Are you ready? It's time to showcase the vibrant tapestry of KwaZulu-Natal's cultural heritage at the Simon Mabunu Sabela KZN Film and Television Awards, South Africa's ultimate celebration of cinematic excellence. So this is in partnership with the SABC and KZN EDTEA, and we champion innovation, paving the way for the future of cinema. This year we go beyond imagination. You can cut, edit your 1-minute submissions. This is important. Listen to that. Cut, edit your 1-minute submissions, because the call for entries is now open until the 28th of March. No, so that's 28th of March is out. There needs to be an extension in this. I'm assuming that is correct, okay? For more information, we need to double check on this one. For more information, visit, and you can check it on the website, kznfilm.coza, right? Or follow on the social media platforms. You can join the conversation using hashtag SSA24. KZN Fulham, our kingdom is your stage.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, so we should be chatting to Visvin Reddy. We spoke about it earlier. He's been charged I understand, for inciting violence. He then came on, spoke to my producer and said, look, he's been advised not to talk. So we do have with us Sabina Chetty, who's the spokesperson. Well, in fact, we've got Sabina Chetty. Let's find out exactly where she fits into all of this. Sabina, I appreciate your time and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you. So help me with this because I'm a bit unsure. So Visbin, of course, spoke, my understanding, on behalf of the MK party. Now, he's not talking. Where do you fit in? Who do you speak on behalf of?
Okay, so I'm the spokesperson for ADEC, okay? What has happened since the formation of MK is ADEC has formed a relationship with the MK, and we're now running this election under the auspices of the MK party.
Okay, so you're what you could say merged, or there's an alliance of sorts, but MK would be the brand name that the public will see, yeah?
Well, the brand name we're going to be using for this election will be MK. In terms of the agreements that we come up with the MK party, we'll decide on that after the election. We already have seats in local municipalities, and we've got to work around the IEC and make the decisions that we have to do. But for now, we're working on the national election and hopefully becoming the ruling party of the country.
Just about every party I've spoken to, like, we're all going to rule the country. Well, we'll see what happens, right? So here's the question before I get to the charge of violence in a moment. So with that in mind, Visbin, specifically Visbin Reddy, so is he a member of the MK party or the Alliance and Democratic Change organization? I mean, who's he a member of?
He's actually the leader of the of ADEC, and at this moment, at the MK party, a number of leaders from smaller parties have joined MK itself. Okay, the actual dynamics as to how the parties are going to fit in with each other will be decided at Congress, but we've got to cross that hurdle after the election.
Okay, so with that in mind, now there's been a charge against the person that you speak on behalf of, Visbin Reddy, for inciting violence, right? What's your response to that?
Okay, so at this moment, we can't really comment except to say that our leader will be pleading not guilty in court tomorrow. He will be appearing in the Chatsworth Magistrates Court. Because the alleged incident the NPA is putting to the leader is said to occur in Ward 63 of Chatsworth during an MK rally.
Okay, so let's confirm, just for people who have forgotten, let's jog their memory. So Visbin Reddy will plead not guilty tomorrow at the Chatsworth Court, as already has been said now by Sabina Chetty. Now, what is he pleading not guilty to? There's a charge of inciting violence based upon pronouncements that he made a few weeks ago, effectively on an MK ticket, which, as we've now heard, is this umbrella body of different organizations coming together to contest the election. This is what he said.
Clear message that if these courts, which are sometimes captured, if they stop MK, there will be anarchy in this country. There will be riots like you've never seen in this country. There'll be no election. No South African will go to the polls.
Okay, so is he pleading not guilty to inciting violence, or is he pleading not guilty, not saying anything? He didn't say this.
Okay, at this moment, we're charging the leader in terms of an Act 17 of 1956, right? And then basically they're saying that he would have commissioned public violence, okay? The leader will explain in court, so there's not very much that I can say about what the defense will actually be, because that is obviously sub judice before the court right now, except to say that both MK and Visbin has come out and done their explanations to that video clip that had been doing its rounds that led to this actual charge being formulated. And I think there was a submission to the IEC from the ANC's Ravi Pillay, against both Viswan and the youth leader of the MK party. And the IEC found that it was not in contravention of their rules. So
my understanding is, so if I can get you right, I understand he'll have his day in court tomorrow, but are you saying, so leaving aside the ruling of whether it's inciting violence, do you and your party and Viswan, do you stand by the actual statement? You know what I'm saying? Does he stand by the statement that says, and we know that MK now can contest the election, but the statement was that these courts are sometimes captured. If they stop the MKP, there will be anarchy in this country. There will be riots like you have never seen in this country. There will be no election. No South African will go to the polls if the MKP is not on the ballot. Now, at the moment, I understand MKP will be on the ballot. But does he stand by what he actually said? That means that he believes that that is what his line of action would have been if they were not on the ballot.
But it was a rally, firstly, and the context in which that clip is being played around is still before the courts. And I'm a bit wary to comment on it because the attorneys obviously will have my head if I'm going to contradict them in court. But for now, all I...
But I mean, what sort? I understand that. I understand. But just Sabina, just quickly...
The context in which that clip is being played is not exactly the context in what those comments were made in. I was present during that.
All right, so can you at least help us with that part? And then I'll let you go. Then what is the context within which he said what he said to help us understand it? And maybe even empathize with him, if that's the case.
At this stage, when Viswan was addressing that rally, it was a gathering of MK members that were totally fed up of the state using state resources to come at MK and stab at MK. You would have seen it for yourself that, the NPA is now getting involved, but there has been 2 court cases already that the MK had to face in the courts. One in Contin, which we obviously won, and then we are awaiting the judgment of the second one. That is frustrating MK members. And it's safe to say that, the members of MK are becoming fed up with the systematic way in which people are stabbing at the party and keeps it going on as though this party has no support.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, let's leave it at that, right? Let's get the day in court tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure whatever is said tomorrow on this show, we will dissect it and maybe speak to you again. We will certainly dissect it and see what comes through in terms of what's the charge, the defense rather, of not guilty to the charge. So, Sabina Chetty, much appreciate today and best wishes. I'm sure your supporters will say the same for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sabina
Thank
Chetty.
you for having us on this.
Thank you. Sabina Chetty speaking there on behalf of Viswan Reddy. In fact, there's a quick one from Kaz in fact, if you have any thoughts on that, you can WhatsApp me or even tweet it out. Kaz in Durban saying, Ashraf, welcome, and then saying, what's the difference between paddle and pickleball? Here's the difference because I don't play pickleball. Pickleball, my understanding, is almost like paddle but smaller, like a badminton. It's lighter, like a shuttlecock. I think it's also just started in South Africa in the last few weeks, also going and played in similar areas. Okay, but I do play paddle. I play once a week. If anybody else plays paddle once a week, maybe send us a picture of you playing paddle. I would love to see it. Well, that's it for the show. There's so much more of messages that maybe we'll even play tomorrow. Let me tell you that. Much appreciated. Let me give a big thank you to the team. And I said so before. What's the team? The production team? Well, that's the coaches, and the presenter is the captain of the team. The team is Lebo, Temba, Vusani, Patrick, Bonga, Jabu, Vuyo, and Nguku. And then, well, that's the entire team. That's the coaches. I'm the captain, and we'll do this tomorrow again. And you, of course, as a member of the audience, you are so critical to what we do as we reflect the national pulse, because you help us understand and to keep our fingers on the pulse. So, coming up after the news is the market update with MoneyWeb, as you know, hosted by Jabi Moyaha. And he already made a point. Edward Kieswetter, the SARS commissioner, well, he's his number one guest. That means I must listen to that. Before that, let's get the news with Madubi.
much, Ashraf. The top stories this hour: petition to stop the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, and the petrol price goes up at midnight. A very good evening. 10 political parties represented in Parliament have petitioned President Cyril Ramaphosa not to sign the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill into law. The parties want Ramaphosa to return the bill to the National Assembly, as they say amendments in the bill are unconstitutional. At issue is the new proposed political party funding model, which they say was brought in at the last minute. Joseph Musia has more.
The majority of the smaller parties, excluding Al-Jama and the African Independent Congress, have signed up to the petition. They say the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, in changing the formula for the funding of political parties and the inclusion of independent candidates, goes far beyond regulating and facilitating the inclusion of independent candidates in the electoral system. The new formula, they say, will have disastrous consequences for smaller political parties. The amendment to